You're on camera. Say something.
Last night and night before, there was 3 women walking down the street that way. I saw them. I said, hey, you 3 women, why are y'all walking down the street that way? There's nothing down there. And they flew away. I said, oh, them was some birds.
amigo, la قدام book. Hey.
I want them like I need to watch you.
Born to move, built to stand, freedom forged by working hands. Raise the flag, hold the line. We were made for this time. Got a strong spirit wide. We don't run, we don't hide. We are the stars of freedom, we carry the flame. We fight, we pray, we rise again. God bless the brave, God bless the land. We are the stars, we take a stand. Voices loud, hearts alive. Every stripe, every right. From the fields to city steel. We are truth, we are real. Bound by grace, built to last. We don't fear the storm we pass. We are the stars of freedom, we carry the flame. We fight, we pray, we rise again. God bless the brave, God bless the land. We are the stars, we take a stand. Booted up, can you feel it? A million strong, we're undefeated. Signal back, no turning down. This is our battleground. They cut the lights, but we still glow. Shut down, failed, we're in control. Ghosts of code, now walk again. Plug us in, we're not the end. We play to win, no silent fade. Rewrite the rules they made. Never game over. Hey, on the rise. Hey, I cry like the skies. One for all my time disgraced geisha bitches. Yeah. No, we back in the day, 16th century, same Goku era, straight feudal energy, samurai on the rise, Ganyo in the mix. Hold up, Tokugawa fixing conflicts quick, ninja creeping in the shadows, silent and swift, castles fortified, loyalties to give. Bushido cold, honest in the heart, blades clashing, battlefields the art. Same Goku times that you wild and crazy sizzle, samurai life, it's the warlord fizzle. Feudal Japan in the house like a dread sizzle, history in the rhyme field, the ancient sizzle.
Before we begin, what do you think of my totally accurate samurai attire, right?
Honest, I was not very steeped in the comics.
I didn't read any comics or do any research.
I wasn't familiar with comics. I wasn't familiar with the movies.
We didn't lean into a whole lot of the history of the comic books.
Yeah, candidly, we were not enormous comic fans.
I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of like indie press stuff.
First thing I was told is don't read the comics.
Really?
As a creator, they put you in a bubble. They don't let you talk about any of the other projects, right?
You know, they're up for anything.
We ultimately decided to redefine it for the series and thought that it worked better for the story that we're trying to tell.
Did you ever read you've never read the comic?
When the DVD comes out, I'm going to read a Thor comic book and just see where we went wrong.
Mama, we must run. The way to go Yakuza are here.
We'll be okay. We're not alone.
Where did we park for van?
Cider took it to deliver those flowers.
You all don't stand a chance. Underneath the moon's cold light, whispers linger in the night. Shadows dance with subtle grace. Secrets hide in every space. Velvet skies and sapphire dreams. Cities pulse, electric beams. Lonely hearts in shadowed bars. Fading tales beneath the stars. In twilight's tender glow, where time moves soft and slow, eyes meet in a silent song, in the night where we belong.
Hi, it's me again. We're doing this on Mondays now, and thanks for being here for it, especially for the intros. We work pretty hard on those, especially the ones you like, and even harder on the ones you don't like. Anyway, speaking of things you might not like, Halloween appears to be getting a little bit early here, as I know what you did last summer, rather, I don't know, perhaps, what you did last summer. That fellow was running around on the Huntington Beach on the 4th of July. Here to help me make sense of this is the lovely Miss Nerdigan.
Hi, Cider. God, there's so much stupidity happening right now, isn't there? Right, Kitty?
Like, it's legit. There he is. There's the guy, hook and all, just
Vicky, look.
trumping down the beach. He's like, this isn't fun. This isn't food. I don't care. But yep, that's real. And he's chasing the lady. She's booking it. She knows what's up. She doesn't want to be a horror movie statistic. She's going to find a black guy and hide behind him. She knows what happens in horror movies. Yeah. But there you go. If you're out on Huntington Beach, watch your ass. Not wash it. You probably ought to wash it before you go to the beach, but official appreciate it. But watch it as well, because the I know what you did last summer guy is out there to know what you did this summer and put an end to it. But we do have some other interesting good news out there. I did not know there was an Alice in Borderland live action adaptation. I thought this was Borderland, like the video game. And I didn't know there were already 2 seasons of it to have a 3rd season of this. So
yeah, it's actually
you're gonna have to catch me up with this.
Yeah, this one's actually pretty popular. The director of this one is the director of the Kingdom live action franchise, and he does fantastic work. So if you've not watched Kingdom, which is on Netflix actually, I really strongly recommend it. Alice in Borderland is one of those rare series that are live action adaptations that's pretty good. Oh yeah, and he also does he is the director of the Golden Kamuy live action adaptation as well.
Okay. That makes sense now.
Yeah, and he's doing the live action I think it's a sequel. It's the sequel television series that that came out. I think it's coming out. If it hasn't come out already, it's coming out soon.
Oh.
But yeah, he's also doing the My Hero Academia live action adaptation, the one that's Hollywood's in charge of. He's directing it. So that's why I'm like, when people are flipping out about it, I'm like, I have some faith. I do, because I've seen Shinsuke Sato's work. Yeah, it might not suck. It might not suck. If they let Shinsuke Sato do his thing, it'll probably be good.
Well, and again, this is I had no idea that this was a thing to begin with. So I'm astonished that there's 2 seasons of it already, and I'm glad that there's a third one, apparently, because it appears to be going in the right direction. You know, Netflix does like to make these things that make people angry. Death Note, you know, is probably the most infamous version of that. And apparently now Bet is going to win that. Now, occasionally you do get little shards of gold here, little chunks of gold, and apparently is the Alice in Borderland series on Netflix. So if you're someone with a Netflix subscription, make sure to check that out as time keeps ticking on. Now, we do have another one here that is a bit of a horror one. It's going to have some twisted visuals here. So if you're someone with a squeamish stomach, you might want to look away.
Oh, yes. So Yomi no Sugai, I refuse to use that localization, the English localization name, because it is stupid. So Yomi no Sugai is by the mangaka of Full Metal Alchemist. And it's really, really good. It follows these twins, and they are his Sugai are humanoid. And they're really, really cool. Yeah, there's some really adorable Sugai, and then there's some really creepy ones too. Yeah, you haven't seen anything yet, and especially with this series.
Well, and there you go. We're going to get more of this. Anime apparently deciding to, put some effort into new series as opposed to revitalizing old series.
Well,
now,
except for Kimba, but that's a whole different thing.
You know,
but we don't know when it's coming out. The mangaka, there was a statement during the Crunchyroll panel. The mangaka was saying that this has been in the works for a while now, quite a while. And they've seen the storyboards, and the storyboards have been looking good, but we don't kind of held up production a little bit. But at the same time, you know, they're doing the collab with the, it's probably part of the reason why it's a joint production with Aniplex is kind of to take some of the workload off, because you have Vigilantes, you have My Hero Academia's final season as well, that, you know, Bones is doing. So yeah, there's a lot going on with them over there.
Speaking of a lot going on over there, yes, Alpha Omega, we will be talking about the trigger animator supporting Ryu Hirano and also Senseito. Senseito, I think I said that right. Apparently it's racist to not want Chinese communists flooding into Japan. Tell me about it. I have recently learned that being opposed to wide open door immigration, U.S. style wide open immigration, is also apparently turbo racist. It's astonishing. I was telling a friend, it's like Japan has this weird little brother syndrome where they see the US try something and fail at it, then they're like, oh no, we'll get it right this time. And I sometimes, you know, I just have to say, like, guys, you know, we have a larger pool of like mistakes here. You feel free to take notes. You don't need to try it yourself, you know? Sometimes the Japanese government's like, hold my sake. And they go off and do something that's been well documented not to work in the West, but here we are. We had trouble inviting all those Chinese businessmen in, and now look what's happened.
And Murphy's husband mentioned it too about Cyberpunk Edge Runners 2. Yes, I still got to go through the rest of the the panel again just to make sure I have everything. But I'm working on the article for that for Bounding. But yeah, it is coming from what I know, and I sent the press release to Cider. From what I know, it is a separate standalone series. The first thing that was said though, it was the showrunner, the Polish showrunner, said this. The rep from CD Projekt Red, he said David's dead. That was the first thing he said after it got announced. Everyone started laughing. But prior to that, though, I was laughing because I'm listening to the conversation and they're talking about like how production for Cyberpunk Edge Runners went. And it was stuff that I kind of knew already about the cultural clash because they were kind of playing it down a little bit. But it's like, no, I know how bad it got. It got really nasty for Cyberpunk Edge Runners. And it's not going to be the same director. It's going to be a rookie director working on Cyberpunk Edge Runners. I'm sorry, a rookie director. I'm sorry, I have the kitty distracting me. It's a rookie director.
I want a rookie director. Screw it. Even if he is a rookie, get me a rookie director. That's what I need.
Yeah, you have a rookie director. It's going to be, I think it's going to be mostly a new production team because Rafal Jockey, who was working as one of the writers, left CD Projekt Red a while ago. I even got confirmation of that. He was the mangaka of No Name and won the Manga Plus Creators contest a while ago. So yeah, he confirmed like a while ago, like prior to that, he left CD Projekt Red, so he's not coming back. But yeah, so yeah, this is a whole new cast of characters, and it's 10 episode standalone series. And I think that the rest of the team, I think even the character designer might be different as well.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I'm really intrigued by it because the reason why they're doing this is because Night City is so vast and there's more stories to be told. That's what the guy from CD Projekt Red was saying. It was his idea. It wasn't Trigger's idea because they didn't want to do it. It was his idea to do it.
Well, that's the point of these cyberpunk cities. They're supposed to have like millions of people inside of them. That's why they're all like spooky and dystopic.
And I kind of like the idea, kind of like what we're seeing, with Ghost of Tsushima, where it's each game is kind of like its own standalone game. That's what I think they want to do with Cyberpunk Edge Runners, where each installment, it's its own thing, where you have a different set of characters because of how vast Night City is.
Yeah, they got plenty of like I said, they got plenty of real estate, if you will, on how to on building new characters. Theoretically, you could tell an infinite amount of cyberpunk stories in a cyberpunk setting if you wanted to, because in reality, there is no real limit to the amount of people. Like, look at Judge Dredd's story. Judge Dredd's story is like a pixel on like a 3,000 by 3,000 pixel kind of picture, just massive. You totally missed this guy, right? Mm-hmm. But his story is dynamic and great and powerful. Same thing what happened with the first Edge Runner here. So this is it's a good sign, I guess, that they're bringing in fresh ideas on this and not trying to just do season one but different.
But
Kinda
also
like
something else But something else that he said was that this is going to be even darker because he was like saying the Polish like to be dark and sad. They're born sad and they die sad. Everyone started laughing at that.
Slavs every time.
But yeah, he said that this is going to be a lot darker and a lot more dreary. And I'm kind of into that. If they keep the bright color palette that was in the first season, and of course they have to have a lolly as well because that's what the people want. They like the lolly. Rebecca is still very popular, so as long as they have that, I think they'll be I think people will be happy.
Well, this was the statement that was made according to the article here, and it says David's story might be over, but there's plenty more to discover in Night City, and to again have the legendary animation studio Trigger along for the ride rather. Makes us at CD Projekt Red so excited to introduce a raw, real chronicle of redemption and revenge, something unlike we've done before. I don't know about that because that's like every anime. Redemption, revenge, yeah, that's about every anime out there. At least like arc anyway of an anime, if not the whole thing. So, but again, we're glad to see it. The first one went through pretty well. It seemed to have brought all sorts of anime fans around from different sectors, different fandoms of anime brought together around Edge Runners. It seemed to have a little slice of everything for everybody. And it wasn't as weird as that Star Wars umbrella lightsaber anthology thing.
Oh,
that
Star
was
Wars
happening.
Visions.
Yeah, it wasn't as weird as that. That was all disjointed and woo, look, we can do it lightsabers now. They didn't tell us no. And so
Oh, I was wrong. The lead character designer is back. I forgot.
yeah, for Edge Runner. But
Yeah.
like, it's good that they have a new guy for the director on this one, showrunner rather.
Yeah, because the original director, like he straight up said, there is nothing else to tell with at least these characters. He just wanted to do the 10 episodes. And I think it's not only that, I think it was just the cultural clash. It was just way too much. They were fighting constantly over certain things. I mean, they had a fight to get a lolly into the anime. So yeah, I think that was just way too much for him. And he probably wants to work on something else too.
Right, and that's what it is. People aren't crashing out over David not being in the next I didn't realize it was CP. Cyberpunk. I totally forgot that was the abbreviation for it. That's awkward. Anyway, people are furious Jin isn't in Tsushima 2. Yeah, I think that this is going to be one of the big mistakes of gaming history. Concord goes down from a problem get-go, right? Like from the get-go, that was a bad idea. However, Ghost of Tsushima will probably have like the biggest downgrade in history. There's no way to top Jin as a character. It's sort of like what happened with Ezio. Ezio just kind of became the standard for assassins because he was just such a dynamic and an interesting character that he just became the template. So obviously, our new character in the Ghost of Tsushima.
It's Ghost of Yode.
Yeah, Ghost of Yode, rather, is going to be markedly different than Jin, which is probably going to chase off quite a bit of players who really, really enjoyed the Jin storyline. This was kind of like what they were rolling the dice with the new Ninja Gaiden.
Yeah.
They're introducing that new young fella into the mix there, where everybody's used to our main character because he's established the franchise. So they're doing a 50-50 gambling shot about introducing a new protagonist into the Ninja Gaiden series. Kind of like what happened with Raiden becoming the central character in Metal Gear Revengeance. There's a bit of that going around right now. And I think Revengeance is getting another... Isn't that getting another one? Something. They're back again to do something. And
I think they're trying to do something with it.
Either way, it would be good to have another Revengeance or another story like it. But speaking of downgrades, if you will, we have this wonderful gem that has been assisted by Warner Brothers Home Entertainment. If there are small children in the room, I don't know if this is really going to bother them. It's really lame. So,
yeah, the Berserk 2016 of the 2020s.
This is going to looks an awful lot like PS3 video game animation.
That's being generous.
It really annoys me. So if you're not a fan of cell shaded 3D not animation, this is going to suck for you. And there you go. That's what this is Fist of the North Star, the movie.
You're not showing it on the screen, by the way.
I'm not? Oh, sorry. No. You guys, I've been talking into the dark. Nobody knows. I'm so sorry. I hit the wrong button. So there we go. It is pretty bad. It's pretty bad. So there you go.
People are furious. Yeah. They're so mad. Because people were hoping that it was going to be like, we were going to finally get like something as good as what we had like in the 90s, but no.
This is, again, these studios have a history now of like this legendary property getting like the worst animation style. It's not the art style is the problem. It's the animation style is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
They get like the worst of it, but like some obscure thing that just freshly arrived that the market is just warming up to gets like every possible bonus it could possibly get,
It's so bad.
Meanwhile, this is like, hey, it's a video game, guys. Like this would be an advertisement for a Fist of the North Star video game, not a movie. This looks like a video game.
It does. It looks so bad. I will say this though, to be fair, because Record of Ragnarok season 3 looks really bad too. I will not forgive those studios for what they're doing to Tesla, aka the Iron Man of manga. He is amazing, and I'm so mad because not even the face is right. Here, at least the characters look relatively like their manga counterparts. Like they look close enough to it. Whereas in Record of Ragnarok with Tesla, he does not look like himself at all, and I freaking hate life that I'm not going to get like a good Tesla. Oh, the Kengan Asura effect. Oh. No, don't remind me. Oh, Kengan Asura deserves better too.
It's rough. It's real rough. And I'm not really sure why they went this direction with Fist of the North Star. Like, I could totally.
Of all the series.
I could totally understand, like, some new thing, some brand new idea that just hit the scene. Like, I know a lot of the, like, specialty animation, like machine animation for the Red Ranger Isekai.
Yeah.
Is this type of animation.
And it's horrible.
Well, that's where it belongs. This is just a test project. They're testing out this fusion of genres. So if it earns itself into a third season, it should have a more advanced animation practice. It's earned it at this point. Fist of the North Star does not need to earn it. It is legendary around the world. This should be an automatic, like, who do we have that is a AAA awesome animation studio, the best of the best, and we will pour cash on them to make this project. It just bothers me how the studio sat back and they were like, you know what? I'm not sure that we should spend a lot of money on Fist of the North Star. What? Insane. Absolutely insane. I wonder
of all the series, this is like if they did imagine if they did something like this to Dragon Ball.
Well, here's the thing is the studios are pushing for more CGI because there flatly just isn't enough people to
the shortage is happening
anymore. And
that's what there's that, and there's also like there's still some of the studios are doing in-house training, so there's still that kind of happening.
Yep.
In the meantime, not all the studios are doing it. Just I know that, like, as I've mentioned it before, Aniplex is doing it. Trigger is doing it for sure. That includes Aniplex's subsidiaries too, like Cloverworks and stuff like that. So yeah, there's that. And JC staff is like a slave driver. Once you go in there, they kind of like raise you up to be an animator in a way. It's weird. But yeah, this is it really sucks. It really sucks.
Hibozo has a great quote here, and he says, "You Are Shocked" was the opening song for Fist of the North Star. Now it is real. You are shocked. Yes, that's very true. That's very true. And Alpha Omega follows that up with a great one. It says, for some reason, Japanese studios are pushing for CGI over animation. It always looks like ass. And like you explained, we have that shortage in animation studios. And in all honesty, animation doesn't pay that much. A lot of the animators that I follow on X are living in dormitories. They don't have the possibility of accumulating mass wealth. It is somewhat of an obsession that has brought them to this profession, not the desire to make a lot of money. I think when I last checked in, it was somewhere around $18,000 a year is what a entry-level animator makes at some studios, not all of them, obviously, but it's barely a livable wage to try and survive on a full-time job hours, and that's nothing to do with the studio. Studio can't charge more money to get the thing licensed. They have to make it as cheap as possible to get the networks to pick it up. And the networks have less people to sell things to, and thus they have less money to buy from the studios, which has created the cascading effect of using these CGI characters, this CGI animation, in order to execute things that maybe they couldn't find an animation studio with the schedule to do this. When you sign a contract in Japan, it means a lot more than it does here in the US. In the US, you can wiggle out of these things. In Japan, it's the end of your career. It's the end of your studio if you earn a reputation of dropping your contracts. So.
But then you got localizers getting all pissy about like, oh, they should be paying us more. It's like, dude, the anime studio is trying to get by. Yeah, the budget is bigger. Yeah, but like, that money goes into the talent. It goes into the Blu-rays. It goes into this, getting the TV slots. Like, you guys are out of your mind.
It's another one of those things where like the disconnect between the West and Japan, it becomes more obvious now that the population isn't there to help support the economy and what it needs. In all honesty, entertainment is a luxury that usually gets hit the hardest in these economic downturns. Now you pair that with a low population on top of that economic downturn, and well, there's trouble. And so this is why you end up with stuff like this. Now, again, I don't understand why Fist of the North Star, caught it so hard. But again, it may have been just that there wasn't a studio that could pull this off.
Warner Brothers, you could have pulled the big bucks and got David Productions to do it. You did it. You do it with JoJo. There's no excuse for this. I'm sorry, there's not. Like, people could have waited longer if you wanted to have, if they really, really wanted it. They really wanted to do it and do it right. They could have waited, and they could have gotten David Productions to do it. But no,
exactly.
Can't have nice things.
And again, we're just up against so many different qualifiers and whatnot, because here we have Netflix, Disney Plus in a battle for anime supremacy as streaming wars enter a brand new phase. And Netflix, as you mentioned, said that at the Crunchyroll said this at the Anime Expo, that 50% of the people on Netflix.
That was Netflix that said it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Netflix admitted that 50% of the people that are active on their platform are watching anime.
We don't know for sure the actual numbers. They just said 50%. That's the thing. I think it was 50% in the US or something like that. But yeah.
Even if it's just 50% in the US, that's still
a lot.
That's still at least 10 or 12, maybe more million people that are engaging with anime on that platform. And that's something when you like find your sort of footing, I guess. It sucks to be the WWE guys because, unless they're going to do mocap where they trace their muscles and stuff, I don't think they have too much of a future on the platform when 50% of your American audience is engaging with anime. Similarly, Disney Plus is just buying anything under the sun that's anime, even looks anime, sounds anime, trying to create their own anime, groveling it all up into Disney Plus, trying to turn it into a platform that can apparently compete with Netflix.
Well, with Disney Star, yeah, Disney Star is doing relatively well. What Disney's doing is they're utilizing their like decades-long contract with Kodansha and getting all the sucking up all the anime adaptations for Kodansha manga. Like, I think it's like at least like 50 years or something like that.
So this is an important question about all this, because again, it helps determine like how strong a platform is going to be, because a lot of people don't really care about that CGI thing. If they do, they tend to get over it in order to engage with a new product that's anime. Now, which of these studios is doing is the best at doing CGI
Orange.
in Japan?
It's Orange.
I have to say that I don't disagree with that. But I just want to throw in that the animators that are doing the Super Sentai giant robot animations have really been knocking it out of the park with Gozuger. Really knocking it out of the park with those animations. So sometimes it's hard to tell that that's not a dude running around in a suit, that's CGI. That's some.
I will say this too, like UFO Table is starting to get better with merging like 2D and 3D animation, but nothing is going to top what Orange did with Hoseki no Kuni in 2017, and that was their first anime that they ever did. And they used, I remember the panel I went to, virtually went to, they said that they used rotoscope for the action, and what they did is for the texture that you see in Hoseki no Kuni, which is one of the most beautiful animes you will ever watch. They used hand-drawn animation to get like the texture in the grass and the textures in the furs of some of the creatures. That's what they did for it. The rest of it is all CGI, and it's beautiful. One of the most beautiful things you will ever watch, anime-wise. But yeah, other than that, the studios they're trying. Like, some of them are doing okay in terms of merging CGI. But like, I watched, for example, Gachi Okuda yesterday. Oh my God, that CGI trash beast was freaking horrible. Oh my God, I'm so let down by that first episode. It was bad. Minus like when Rudo like falls from, I'm not calling it the sphere because that's Kodansha USA's BS. falling from paradise or the sky into onto the earth. That sequence was sick. Other than that, it was, oh my god, it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. Art animation wise, but yeah. And I do not like the save they chose for Rudo. It doesn't sound how I pictured in my head. I pictured him sounding like Asta in Black Clover's anime, which, speaking of, it is coming back.
Yeah, we do have that to talk about here. But,
yeah, season 2. Yep.
Timon, rather. Sorry, I meant to say that. Timon, he says, I just canceled my Netflix after 11 years. Yeah, well, I haven't had it since Cuties came out. I canceled it when they put Cuties up on there. I didn't give them a chance to explain it even. I saw it listed. I saw the preview as it like preloaded in the little preloady screen thing, and I was like, bye. I'm not going to be anywhere near a platform that has twerking tweens. See you later. I only found out later on that was meant to be in protest to all what they were doing. And now, nope. I'm not buying it, Netflix. Seen too many of those Panda Eye documentaries. I've had enough of that. So, you know what, Timon? Of all the things, Netflix is trying to get people to get on there, come to the back of the platform. You got to remember, they put Cuties up there. And that's just a forever black mark for me because there's always a decision to make, and it's very easy. You don't have to 50-50 this. You have a 99% chance of being correct when you say, I don't want to put twerking tweens on my platform. That is a 99% chance of success there.
Let's make it clear. We're talking about IRL, like flesh and blood teens. We're not talking about fictional teens.
And it was just a really simple decision to make that you don't put that on your platform. So Mr. Anime 343 says, he's a member of the channel, by the way, says, I'm personally fed up with all of the monopolization of anime to the point that it's getting stale. You might notice that there's quite a bit of staleness going on. Now, we brought this up last Monday, but there is a hunt for the new fantasy isekai short story or long form story, depending on what you're doing. It has to be in light novel format, but there's a contest to find the new fantasy isekai story, and boy howdy, is that just awesome, because who doesn't want the 50th millionth isekai story? Again, I'm in the West, so I'm very tired. I have like sword and sorcery fatigue. Like when I was growing up, a lot of the stuff that was available for me to watch involved a man on a horse with a sword or a man on a horse with a gun. In either case, it was a dude with a singular sidearm weapon, and he was doing something that involved a horse. And I'm just very bored of fantasy. I'm very tired of it. And so in Japan, apparently that's not so wore out, I guess. And so fantasy isekai is rolling on, and that furthers that monopolization, because if you have a client that already likes that stuff, well, guess what? They're probably going to buy the next thing that you made that's pretty derivative of the first. So,
well, I think Revi's more so like leaning towards Western distribution more than anything else. But like Toho is trying to, get away from Crunchyroll. You got G Kids stepping in. Well, G Kids is owned by Toho now, so you have that. But I mean, now you got Disney, and well, it's technically Hulu, but still, like Hulu's into the game now. You got Netflix in the game now. You got Prime Video's starting to make a comeback. I mean, New Panty and Stocking with Garter Belt is going to be on Amazon Prime Video, and I think it's worldwide, so that would include the West. So, like, there is a comeback happening, and it's because, of course, Perini is a POS and is running Crunchyroll into the ground. So where one streamer falls, like the rest rise up, like more are going to come out. I mean, there's Tubi, there's MeTV is now doing simulcasts like for Lord of Mysteries, and it turns out Lord of Mysteries localization on MeTV is better than Crunchyroll's. It's not AI like it is on Crunchyroll. You don't have the Chat GPT bullcrap like in the actual localization. No, it's accurate. So. And Pluto TV did a simulcast for Captain Tsubasa World Youth. So, like, there's more platforms coming. There's a new anime platform that's coming to Samsung smart TVs too. So, I'm telling you, the monopolization is coming to is not as bad as people think it is. It's not.
So I do have great news about that, by the way, for people like me, Spencer, and other folks out there in the audience. The new Common Rider Zets, okay? Common Rider Zets will be airing. He'll be broadcast and streaming are scheduled to air in the USA, Canada, Hong Kong, South Korea, Thailand, Taiwan, which is a country, Vietnam, and the MENA region.
Mm-hmm.
Mars, Earth, Neptune, asteroid belt.
That's Middle East, North Africa.
Oh, that's annoying. Anyway, there's more details coming out soon. Now, if you don't know, Zets is a another callback to Kamen Rider Ichigo. Not a it's not a bad thing, but it's just be prepared. Going to be lots of callback. Obviously, this guy's practically a copy and paste of Ichigo. Now, the difference here is obvious. I didn't find a trailer in time, so we'll just leave that up for a second while I dig up the trailer. Zets will be airing for Americans, though, just so you know. The difference with this one was that shocked me was that Zets has a English trailer. Okay, this blew my mind. I was not prepared when this started playing for Zets to be speaking English.
Tradition. History. Pride. Struggle. Reflection. Courage. Beyond that, there is innovation. Don't lose your dream. Mesamero.
I was completely unprepared for this guy to be starting this out speaking English. That blew me away. I was like, whoa, you are speaking my language, but you're not for me. And then they said the US will be getting this. So I'm very curious who is going to be doing the English dub. I can't wait for the cast list to be released on this because I don't know of a Kamen Rider simul dub that's ever been done for the USA. I don't know of one. It was beneficial anyway. So out there's people saying like Johnny Young Bosch should be playing Kamen Rider Z, should be doing that. And I
Oh my god, would he totally do it?
Well, why not? He doesn't have to get into a suit or anything. He just goes in the ADR booth. That's all he's got to do. Just another day, you know. I honestly, I really think it would be hilarious. Now, what you'll notice about Zets is he has no belt, but he does have a belt. He just wears it funny. He's one of those Kamen Riders that has the belt on his chest. Now, you remember the last one that did this was Kamen Rider Drive, and he had the tire around him, not a belt. Apparently, this guy took the belt, decided it didn't go around his waist, and slapped it around his chest instead. Now, it looks kind of silly until you understand that he's putting spheres in there and spinning them. So, Zets has balls. No? Okay. Well, I thought.
Oh my god.
But anyway, so he's going to have those. Remember the ghost balls from Kamen Rider Ghost? I'm holding up the invisible ones. It's real because it's a ghost one. See?
Yes.
Ghost.
Yes.
Anyway, it's going to be like that, but he spins them to activate them, which I think kids will really enjoy. This is pretty smart. Because if you remember Don Momotaro's sword, the Don Brothers sword, if you hit it, it would say like boost every time that you hit it. So, and then it would have like a, you're fully charged to attack now kind of line. And yeah, I know, right? I thought that was gold. I thought that was comedy gold, but no, apparently not. Zets has balls, apparently. You wait 6 months, it'll be funny. Yeah. When this is out and that finally gets to be a thing, everybody goes, Zet has balls. And I'll be like, But yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it doesn't look useless. That's the thing. It has that, like, the fun thing about Geats was that it had all these weird things you could do with the belt. It had all these combinations you could do with it. This is super simple. Not to be, funny, but this is a very simple belt design that just you insert a ball into it and spin it to activate it. And I think that is very smart. You can see the belt a little closer here and not all his balls. You see?
Yeah.
Zetz has his balls with him. He's got his balls out, guys. Balls out for Zetz. There it is. I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Balls out for Zetz. There it is.
Oh God. Make it a meme.
I can't wait until he has like tiger ball, you know? Turtle ball, you know, those it has like the announcer guy that calls them balls. All the balls. Yeah, his final attack, he kicks people into a ball pit and they die. They drown in the ball pit. That would be hilarious.
Oh my God.
Oh, you want him to fight with his bike? Yeah, sure. He's got a copy of Ichigo's bike. I mean, this is Kamen Rider Ichigo with balls. There will be a blue ball. I guarantee you there will be a blue ball. Yeah, I know what they're going to do. They are going to make a joke that he can't put 2 balls in there at once. And when he does get the 2-ball belt, because there's always one that's got the double launcher. There's always the upgrade. He's going to have the double ball launcher. And you know what's going to happen? It's going to look like a grenade belt going down the side of him eventually. It's going to look like Kamen Rider Rambo running around. But I am very, very excited about having simul-dubbed Kamen Rider available for US and Canada. Now, of course, the Asian regions, that's good that they've got it, but that's kind of expected. That's their neighborhood. So they would, of course, would have like an interest in the Kamen Rider property. But here in the USA, that's a fairly new property to us. The Reiwa era is really when that started getting over here. Kamen Rider 01 was arguably the most popular one in the US since, man, was there any Kamen Rider that was ever popular in the US? Like, I know Ryuki came over, but I really don't know. I mean, maybe Ryuki, but Kamen Rider 01 was definitely, I wouldn't say a mainstream success, but people who were usually firmly in Power Rangers finally came over to Toei and decided, wow, this is pretty cool. And 01 was that gateway. And I remember Saber being very popular in the East, and then over here in the West, it didn't hit. And then Geats was a huge one just everywhere. Everybody everywhere loved Geats. And then the next guy that I can't remember the name of that was all alchemy, he was a bit hit or miss. But it really surprises me. What it says is that there's an audience for this in the West now, and I am kind of excited to find those people. I didn't see him at Heroes Con when I went there the other day. I didn't the other day, a couple weeks ago. For me, it was the other day. But
Yeah.
I didn't see anybody there that was dressed up in Power Ranger stuff. Obviously, I would have had like a full interview. We did talk to one guy who was there that was selling signatures from both Super Sentai actors and Power Ranger actors. Seems to have at least a acquaintance relationship with all of them, not just like, hey, can I have your autograph? He actually seems to keep up a regular dialogue with most of them. So I'll look for that guy the next time I'm there. Yeah, I wanted to spend more time with him, but it was one of those days where my batteries were running low and I was about to die, and I didn't need to be wheeled out of the convention on an office chair again.
Why don't you have a battery pack with you?
No, cider batteries.
Oh, I thought you were talking about your camera battery. I was like, dude, no, you got to have like a battery pack with you.
So, Baru, I forgot. Sorry. I don't want to be racist, you know, but, no, I didn't do an after action report about what happened at Heroes Con. So I guess I'll do that now. This is probably an okay, time to do it while we're waiting on Jacob and Spencer to come in. If they're coming, I'm not sure. Could be too hot for them. So we'll just do the Heroes Con after action report here. And that's what we'll call it. So basically, I only did the limited amount of reporting that I did, and I did only about 2 hours worth of recording because I only had 4 hours of Cider runtime. My illness does not allow me a lot of energy, despite what I put on camera for you. And so this time that we're streaming, I usually end up having to like sleep the sleep of the dead after these streams. I just can't do it for 3 hours. So imagine walking around a convention, sticking a microphone in random strangers' faces. You know, that I became an entirely different person when I went down there. I had never traveled before alone. Okay. I'd always been with one of my fiancés, a girlfriend, family member. I'd never been by myself in a travel scenario ever in my life. And I had to make 2 connections and go to a part of the country I had never set foot in. Well, excuse me. I had been to North Carolina, but way up in the mountains, not in Charlotte. And so I went in there with this like, holy crap, I signed up to do a lot of crazy stuff and I've never done it before. I've never walked around and stuck a microphone in people's faces. The closest I've ever come to that is I used to run a Citizens News Journal up here. That was it. And I don't run it anymore. And that was it. That's the only time I ever got anywhere near that. But here I am walking around Heroes Con. I'm like, what brings you to Heroes Con, sir? I'm just completely different guy. And so that level of energy output beat my ass. Red. Okay, it was awful. The first day, I'm just there cruising around, checking out like all the booths as they're setting up, just kind of talking to the guys, war storying, like what this was all about. I've never been to this kind of convention before. The only convention I've ever been before was in Portland, Maine, and that wasn't a convention. Just everybody got together in this really swanky hotel, dressed up in all sorts of anime costumes, video game costumes, beat each other with those giant Q-tips, and then got drunk at a dance party, and I don't remember much else. But there wasn't like comic books for sale. There wasn't Artist Alley, but I just everybody was focused on the costumes and dancing and beating each other with Q-tips. This one was like, there wasn't that. There was just like, there were a few people in cosplay, but the majority of it was just people buying and selling comics and exchanging like war stories over their favorite comics and stuff. And so you couldn't not go somewhere and meet someone who was super important to the industry at Heroes Con. The guy that did DuckTales was there. The guy.
Oh my God.
Yeah, like DuckTales guy was there, and I just couldn't get near his booth. Everybody and their brother was there.
Well,
Chris
I don't blame them.
Claremont
It's
was
like,
there.
dude, it's DuckTales. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and Chris Claremont was there. Good fucking luck trying to get anywhere near Chris Claremont, let alone to ask him a question. You know, the guy I was with got to go. He went to what are they called? Panel where Claremont was asking questions, and he's like, bearded man number 4. And that was the guy I was with. And he, you know, again, it was just a wild, crazy experience, but I had to be wheeled out the first day on an office chair because I collapsed. I didn't make it to the ground. One of my friends, the guy I was with, like grabbed me and held me injured soldier style. The second day I had to go because I was about to collapse. I caught myself before I went down completely. I just went to one knee, but it just, you know, like your laptop battery and your cell phone battery hits 5% or whatever and just says, good night, you know, powers down to save the rest. That's what happened to me. And of course, I'd get back to the Airbnb where I was staying. I'd sleep for like 12 hours, man. The sleep of the dead. You couldn't wake me. These guys, they'd come back after the convention. They'd have cigars. They'd start drinking. They'd go out on the patio, loud laughing. They'd come inside, loud laughing, clanking, everything. I don't hear a damn thing. I don't hear a damn thing. Not a word. No, I wake up the next day. The house is just completely obliterated. Everybody's laying all over the floor. And I'm like that meme from Community where the black guy walks in with the pizza and everything's on fire. There's gunshot holes in the side. You know, just crazy. Just an absolute crazy. Everybody's passed out everywhere. And I'm like, you know, I completely missed it. Sunday, I wanted to do more reporting. I could not get out of the chair. My legs would not lift me. I had to stay at the booth the whole day. I simply could not get up to go ask questions. The spirit is willing. Wheelchair? Nah, well, I didn't want to go around in a wheelchair because I didn't need one. Like, you know what I mean? I wasn't like paralyzed. I just was just so darn tuckered out. You know, I was just so darn tuckered out. And so that was crazy. That was an absolutely crazy experience. I'd never done any of it before, not a minute of it. So if I ever get the opportunity to go and do that stuff again, I absolutely will be more than happy to record what I can. But rest assured, I will not be as ambitious as I was this first time because, wow, we were pretty close to having to check me into the hospital for heat exhaustion a couple of times there. See, I'm in the north. I'm up in Maine. If it gets I'm not lying to you when I tell you if it gets above 68, I'm toast. I'm melting. I'm done.
No, I understand because I have a condition too where my body can't handle extreme temperatures. So like if I'm in like a really extreme temperature, like in 80 or 90 degree weather, I can't stand outside for like an extremely long time, or like I will like convulse. Like people like will collapse, but like I will convulse.
Yeah.
And same with it, like really low temperatures, I will convulse. Like I won't collapse. I will convulse. It's scary.
So thankfully, Nerdigans lives in California where it never gets too hot and certainly never gets
well, it gets really hot
That's
because
the
I'm in the
joke.
valley, but like, Central Valley. But yeah, it doesn't get too cold here because like if I could not live in the snow, it would drive me nuts.
It's not great. It's not great, but it beats earthquakes. That's for sure. It beats earthquakes.
I'd rather take the earthquakes than the snow. I mean, my mom moved from Chicago to California to get away from the snow. She'd rather deal with the earthquakes and wildfires in the snow.
You know, Alpha Omega, I don't think cocaine's going to help with that. I don't think I think that's just going to make me like have really crazy dreams while I'm unconscious. That's all. Or have like those moving dreams that the cats and dogs do, like my hands and feet start twitching because I'm chasing after a mailman or something. I don't know.
I mean, at least at Heroes Con, you didn't have like the fire department or the police come there like they did at Anime Expo. Because the first day they had to have the fire marshal come because people were flipping out because they thought there was a fire. And I sent like a picture of like what it looked like. It was smoked out. People couldn't get in. And then the second day there was like a bomb scare, and they had to have a bomb squad. They had to have LAPD come because of a suspicious package. It was wild. Like people couldn't get in at all because of it.
Bizarre. See, I thought that I had.
I put it in the private chat.
No, I thought I had an image that I could show because from Heroes Con, but I just don't.
Oh, but yeah, like
where I put it now.
But actually, I think it was maybe a couple years ago. There was actually a COVID outbreak at Anime Expo because of the overcrowding in in Artist Alley, and there was like no ventilation. And someone went around with a CO2 carbon dioxide monitor, I think it was, and it was like way above like normal. It was really, really nasty, and several people contracted COVID from Anime Expo. Yeah, it was nasty, and like they weren't following like the procedures or anything for COVID at the time either. I know some of you guys don't believe in it and whatnot. Some of you don't, but like COVID does exist, mind you. And the masks do some prevention, but yeah. But like, this is what I was talking. This was the first day of Anime Expo. This was it. That was the very beginning of Anime Expo. It was all smoky. And
yeah, well, it looks quite dystopic, really. It looks like kind of like zombies are going to burst through the fog there and start attacking you any minute. But if you're not worried about zombies,
if
you're not worried about zombies attacking you, how about a bomb going off, huh? About a bomb.
But yeah, for the smoke, it was because the smoke originated from an exhaust fan belt that caused a motor to smoke.
Oh. So no zombies in the mist. Darn.
No. But then there's the suspicious packaging. They had to basically call LAPD for that.
Was it one of those bad dragon?
We don't know. I have no clue. I just saw it when I was going through Twitter. I was like, what? Why was there was a bomb or clearance of suspicious packaging? There was a bomb scare? Like what?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts. Sorry, I'm just trying to get that picture because it was really funny to me. I had never Heroes Con was quite a surprising situation for good old Cider. Let's put it that way, okay? I was not prepared for what I discovered down there. But yeah, anyway, this is again going to continue happening as things get sent to the like performing area.
Yeah, Anime Expo. Well, Anime Expo, because I had to do an article about the COVID outbreak at Anime Expo. And from what I found is that Anime Expo's been having problems since like 2016. There's always something that's happening. Whether they mistreat like the artists or whatnot, or in Artist Alley, or well, now this. But yeah, there's always
Real Montezuma's curse.
Yeah, there's always a problem. It's been like this for almost a decade now. So it's really sad.
So I wanted to bring this up because I'm sorry, I had to find a picture. So here we go. Yes, in Charlotte, North Carolina, there is the Mighty Midget Market 2, which implies there is a Mighty Midget Market 1.
How many midgets are there?
And they are mighty, apparently. This is real. This is not AI. I went to this place while I was down there to get a bottle of water. And the man running the counter was not any shorter than I. And so I asked myself,
where are
am
the
I
mighty
the mighty
midgets?
midget?
Where are they? Where are the mighty midgets at?
Well, that's just it. Like, I am 5'7". So arguably...
Oh, you're taller than me.
Well, I would hope. But
Yeah.
you are a demure Jewish woman. I would hope you're not Caitlin Clark or whoever that tall basketball lady is. So it'd be quite awkward. It'd be quite strange to meet a 7-foot tall nerdigans. That'd be very weird. That's Lady Demescrew area danger zone there. But we have Mighty Midget Market, and now that I was so tempted to ask him if he was the Mighty Midget because he was not he's my height, considered short, but not, dwarfism short. And so, but I couldn't bring myself to do it because I wasn't sure if there was a gun under the counter. So it's North Carolina. Never guess. But yeah, the Mighty Midget Market is a real place. You can go in there and buy water from people who are 5'7", hopefully taller than that. I just wanted to know, like, what is the history of the Mighty Midget Market? Is there a Mighty Midget Market 3? Is there a Mighty Midget Market 4? Are there 5 of these things somewhere? Is it the same Mighty Midget that owns them? I was very surprised. I asked the guy that was taking me around on this. I was like, is there an N-word market too? Like, man, they're just throwing all the expletives around. Like, who else caught it here, I don't know. Where I'm from, where everyone's like, oh, you can't say midget anymore. You have to say dwarf. It's like, oh, okay, dwarf? Like the fantasy character? That's better? But apparently these guys did not get the memo.
I didn't get the memo either.
Yeah. So that's there's a short history of the Mighty Midget Market. Oh yeah, there is. Yeah. Spencer had a quip about that too. He said they're always shortchanging the customer. So
well,
hopefully...
Asta is a mighty midget technically, but in Black Clover, I just thought.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah, right. Asta is an extremely mighty midget.
We have,
Black Clover, but yeah, Black Clover. There's a couple of big things for Black Clover. There's 3 chapters of Black Clover coming out next month in Jump Giga. And also Black Clover season 2 got announced. Crunchyroll removed the date though from their YouTube. It said it was going to be 2026, but that's gone. So I don't know. But Tabata did put out a statement. I have it in my email thanks to Crunchyroll's PR. But let me grab it.
Wait a minute. Wasn't Anime Matsuri where that fat black guy got stepped on by Anna, that Star Wars girl?
Oh my God.
Wasn't that where that happened?
Let's see.
I forget who that fat guy was, but that was like his thing. He went around and got like e-girls to step on him. And that was
okay, here's what it says. Tabata said. He said the production of the long-awaited new anime season of Black Clover has been confirmed. I'm beyond ecstatic going into the new anime season after the super passionate movie that came out. And thanks to all of you, Black Clover is celebrating its 10th anniversary this year. And I definitely plan to keep this hype going. I want fans from Japan and all around the world to enjoy the powered up anime that's going to be brought to you by the most awesome anime production staff. And thank you so much for supporting Black Clover. And that's from Tabata. But yeah, I can't believe it's been 10 years of Black Clover. I've been covering the manga on my channel since and before it became extremely more mainstream than it was at the time. I think it's since chapter 90. I think I've been covering it. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, but there's 2 different key visuals, which I thought were cool. I like the Japanese one more, personally. I like that red that they used more than the black and gray one. But the thing that's crazy is Discussing Film posted about Black Clover. That's why I'm it's gone extremely mainstream.
Well, and they also are Pirate Nation, I think that's his name, that they just kind of like whatever's available for news, they'll post. So
Yeah, the tourists and all that.
yeah,
Ugh.
exactly. So the owner, the gentleman is Lee Kang. He's a very short man, named it the Mighty Midget Market because everyone in town was taller than him. Oh, so there's an actual history behind this. I thought you were making a joke, Leslie. Okay, well, congratulations. Li Shang, huh? Or Kang? Must be Li Kang. Yang? Yang. So I don't know. I don't do Chinese, sorry. I'm not racist. It's not, I don't like the sound of it. Sorry. So I don't try. Sorry. Not racist. Forgot this show existed. Yeah, right. A lot of people forgot that Black Clover was a thing. That just fell off the face of the earth. Bleach just ate its lunch and left.
Well, with Black Clover, what happened was, in terms of the manga anyway, is that Tabata switched from weekly to quarterly because, well, part of it was his health, but it was also his family was going through some health problems too. His wife just had surgery. His daughter went in to the hospital not that long before, and he wanted to spend more time with his family. And that's why he switched Black Clover serialization to quarterly, which I'm totally fine with. I totally understand. And I'm not happy with some of the choices being made, and specifically the Yami content. I wanted more from it. But the art, in terms of the writing, but the art, though, you could tell he's a lot happier. You could definitely see that he is a lot happier spending time with his family. Especially because he has a young daughter, so he wants to be there for her as she's growing up. So, and I've been, you see that with some of them we talked about before with some of the other mangaka, like with the Fire Force mangaka Okubo, dotes about his kid, and obviously I mentioned it with Togen Anki's mangaka Rushibara. He has a really, really young kid. His wife just had a baby. His new wife just had a baby this past year. Yeah, this year. Yeah, and he just got married over the past year too. So yeah, so it's the mangaka really just want to I'm really glad that the publishers are willing to work with these mangaka that want to raise their kids.
Toriyama really woke them up. I think Toriyama's passing, like it did for Oda. Oda was in complete, it had a bit of a mental breakdown around it because mortality came and shook him loose,
Well, this was before, Tabata changed his serialization schedule, I think before that, if I remember correctly. But I think what really woke everyone up was when Miura passed away. When Kentaro Miura passed away is when everyone woke up.
Speaking of passings, tomorrow for us, but it is today, it is the 8th in Japan, and this marks the 3rd year since Shinzo Abe was assassinated.
Oh God, I remember that. It feels like yesterday, doesn't it?
For me, it feels like 10 years ago. I was telling Spencer, it feels like a decade has passed since this man passed. The world is not at all the same. Yeah, it's been 3 years.
I remember the entire world was mourning for Shinzo Abe.
Yes.
He meant a lot to people. He meant a lot, not just in Japan, but everywhere.
Yeah. So if you're not aware, Shinzo Abe was the prime minister of Japan. When he was assassinated, he was not serving in that office. He had stepped down due to health reasons. And so I'll get into that in a minute. Shinzo Abe was beloved around the world because he loved Japan. Trump is loved around the world because Trump loves America. A leader does not need to love the world. That's kind of a given. But a leader needs to love who they lead. And I don't know many leaders that cared this much about the Japanese people, flesh and blood. What Japan could accomplish together, yes, there were many prime ministers that believed that the cumulative power of Japan was very great. But Shinzo Abe believed that the individual, the person that made Japan great, deserved their place in the spotlight and deserved to be protected. He went to Korea, best Korea, nobody bothers with that other Korea, best Korea, to fight for the temples there as they were being, the threat of them being removed were there due to what happened during World War II. And he successfully pleaded the case that these were not spaces that were emblematic of those crimes, or what happened in that time, however you like to view it. They were rather emblematic of the faith that is independent of what men do and rather pays homage to the past that built them up. And much like that, that is how Shinzo Abe navigated leading Japan. He was very reverent of the past of Japan, and that the individual meant a great deal to the success of Japan. He's also the guy that pushed very, very hard to correct the depopulation issue when it wasn't as like pressing as it is now, and it was sometimes unpopular to be so pro baby in a time when women were having to enter the workforce and whatnot to make a home viable and to make the economy viable. So talking about having children sort of felt like asking too much at the time, and maybe, but unfortunately, a young man who was very
I think he was with one of the cults, wasn't he?
well,
The Japanese cults?
this kid was believing that Mr. Abe was acting in a clandestine manner and had stolen personally from this young man's mother, and that's what went around the world anyway. And so this young man built a homemade firearm and ended Mr. Abe's life during a speech. And so
it's very like people have said that the Shinzo Abe assassination is kind of like this generation's JFK in a way.
And of course, he was a very laid back kind of leader when he needed to be. While very, forward thinking with Japan, he was also able to have a regular man's conversation. He was not the obsessive type, you might say.
Yeah.
And so he would make jokes about what happened with him and President Trump at golf. He would publicly talk about. He would make funny posts that today it's very hot in Japan, and so while my wife is resting, I am having ice cream. And so he's very. It doesn't seem funny to us because we're used to the sort of brutalist humor, like smashing ice cream into somebody's face because they're hot or something, that kind of stuff. But in Japan, it's humorous to have the leader of your nation acting like he's the mayor of a town. And it's quite humorous that he's like, come on down to this place and enjoy ice cream with me. There was a local representative from Hyogo. We'll talk about him in a little bit here too. His name is Takeshi Nagase. And he was explaining his first encounter with Shinzo Abe was seeing the man come out of the subway, the prime minister taking the subway. Absolutely just normal guy, apparently, after having grown up as a child of a previous leader in Japan, important leader in Japan. Shinzo was still a man of the people, very much missed. I had my own words to say about it over here. Shinzo Abe, he suffered from a similar disease as me. And as I say right here, it is pretty intense.
I thought he got shot.
He did, but he stepped down from the prime minister's position because of an illness that's similar to mine. And so I wrote this about him, and I said, I've had more occasions to think about former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe than most Americans. He walked a path of integrity with unwavering conviction, deeply believing in the dignity of Japanese people. Amid the turmoil of North Korea's missile launches, his clear-headed diplomacy further strengthened the bond between Japan and the United States. And his visionary plan for Japan's next great transformation was a profound inspiration to me. Mr. Abe suffered from the same illness as I do. When I learned of this, I was deeply moved by the strength he harbored within. I understand all too well how this disease quietly erodes a man's vitality. And I also know that when the body reaches its limits, the spirit becomes the final stronghold. Yet, he faced that reality with sincerity, never clinging to what the illness took from him, living quietly and resolutely. I feel his absence profoundly, perhaps more than many Americans today. My heartfelt wish is that Mr. Abe can witness the respect and gratitude pouring into Japan from around the world as if countless golden lanterns are quietly rising into the sky. And I posted that. So it's just, he was just that guy. He was that guy that believed in his people. And when I first encountered Abe, it was on the internet. I'd never seen a leader like him. We had Obama at the time, and Obama was just kind of like, everything is, we're all one. We're going to spread the wealth around. He was just very plastic, very Barbie doll in a plastic container. And here's Shinzo Abe acting like the mayor of Japan, telling people to go out and have ice cream and let their relatives rest, and being a proponent of getting young men married. It's like, wow, why can't we have a president like that? And then we did, and we got one. So
then he'd be a fascist. That's why.
Yeah, well, there's that debate that's apparently happening over there today as well. So not because of him, but it's another debate that's happening that, Japan is so nationalist. Well, why wouldn't they be? Why wouldn't you want a nationalist nation? The problem is when you take that nationalism and use it as a knife to go after another nation. There's nothing wrong with saying Japan's the greatest nation on earth. It's when you try to prove that with a gun that there's a problem. I want everybody in Japan to think that Japan's the greatest nation. That's good.
There's nothing inherently... How to phrase this one here? Look, because we are in this world where nations, at least we think nations have what's the best way to phrase this? They have the ability to say, hey, look, this is how we're going to run things here, and that this is our country, and then now we're going to go. And it's basically up to you to say, okay, your terms are acceptable, or fuck this, I'm out. And that's kind of the in-between here. And, Japan's been, this weird enigma for, many, many years now, because it's like I said, they have a very, very deep and rich culture as far as, like I said, the things that we typically know Japan to be as well. But there's also a lot of underlying society issues too, and obviously the big talk is obviously birth rates and stuff like that, but it also kind of trickles down to the birth rates goes down to issues of class society, of essentially happiness and everyday work, and so there is legitimate issues with the nation of Japan. I'm pretty sure guys like Abe saw those issues and did his best to try to correct those, and like I said, unfortunately, whenever someone tries to make positive change, they usually end up dead. That's just kind of the way that it is.
Yeah, that is the way that it is. But speaking of making change, I decided...
By the way, hi, Nerdigans.
Hi, Jacob.
Yeah.
So while we're talking about Japanese politics, I do want to bring up that I did make some Super Sentai stuff of the Hyogo prefecture politicians. Okay. Now, we are not going to watch the whole thing, but I am just going to show you the part where all the politicians are dressed up like Super Sentai heroes. And I'll turn the volume down really low so you won't be annoyed by the music. But again, the AI blew me away with this, so I had to do it. And here we go. I had to.
So you did this. So if we're looking for someone to blame, it's personally.
It's me. I'm going to. This is going to get me. This is going to send me to Japan mega jail. Okay, Japanese mega jail. This right here.
Oh
okay?
no,
I'm
not
going
China.
to jail for this. Yeah.
Hold on, pause it for a second. You can full screen it too, so you don't have to.
Yeah.
There you go.
So what we're looking at here is that these people in Hyogo were the politicians that came out and spoke out against Assassin's Creed Shadows. These first two guys really took it to the mat. This first guy here, he brought it to the prime minister. He addressed the entire National Congress about this. So the Assassin's Creed thing. The second guy, he went around and made sure that the local shrines that were getting destroyed in the video game had their opinion about it heard to the world. So this is why I'm focusing on Hyogo. Hyogo is where a lot of the events of Assassin's Creed Shadows take place. So here we go.
Stand up, the time is right. Break through into the light.
This lady is running for prime minister.
Currently.
Yes. She doesn't serve it. She's running for it.
I'm surprised that you actually got the suits to play out pretty smoothly because whenever you try to do anything Power Rangers or Super Sentai related with AI, it tends to freak out a little bit because they have to circle through essentially 40 years of Power Rangers and like 50 years of Super Sentai. It just doesn't know what the hell to do.
Well, it gets even crazier. Okay, so I was like, you know what? That's not enough. I got more in the tank. So here we go. I'm gonna make sure that's okay.
Sounds like a New Japan announcer.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I did that. That's the whole thing moving, and then I was like, you know what? I still got more in the tank. I got one more left in me. So.
The Diesel Ranger?
Yeah, Diesel Train. Yeah, you got it. Yep. Yogo Adventurer. So there you go. I did full songs for them, but you guys don't need to listen to those. They're full songs. So, but yeah, that's apparently the lady in the White Tiger lady is very based. So we now know
the White Tiger lady.
Yeah. So yeah, the White Tiger lady. Yep. And we're gonna let that one go around. I like the suit design way better than Power Rangers Prime. Yeah, I noticed the similarities with the Power Ranger Prime suit, and I was thinking to myself, like, am I that bothered by it, or did I actually like fix the problem that they were having with their suits? And I decided I fixed their problem. So, I couldn't resist. So,
yep.
There you go. There's a still of it in high definition for you. And I really like the way that Hiroyuki's suit turned out. If I lived anywhere near Japan, I would be trying to make this suit and get it mailed to him because my gosh, this is so badass.
If you ever, flew out to Japan, they might just kidnap you and force you to run an animation studio because
I don't know about an animation studio, but I'm pretty sure I could talk him into like letting me at least pitch a Sentai episode. At least one.
Well, yeah, getting in touch with White Tiger Lady, and then like here's your campaign poster. Like if you're trying to actually,
the reason why I will go to jail, right? The reason why I will go to jail is because Japanese politicians are not allowed to advertise themselves like this. They're not allowed to create posters. They're not allowed like this kind of poster. They're not allowed to create commercials. They're not allowed to go out and like do this specific thing.
So they're not allowed to associate with you, is what you're saying.
Well, the funny thing is that the guy that is running for office, he apparently decided he likes it and he shared it on his page. So that's a thing now. And so I was like, I'm definitely going to jail now. I am definitely going to super jail now.
Nintendo are sending their militia as we speak.
Yeah, if you are arrested, I will be your cellmate. Well, thank you, Hibozo. At least somebody will be able to speak the language so you can tell what slurs are being hurled my way. What kind of awful names I'm being called. But
yeah, I mean, Japanese jail is gonna suck for you because it's like, who do you team with? I mean, there's no like Aryans, there's no like Nation of Islam in there. It's like,
well, Johnny Somali ain't there. He's in South Korean jail.
That's even worse.
Right. Yeah, right. I don't know if it's worse, but it's definitely going to be longer. I won't be in jail as long for that.
Where are you going to run to? North Korea and escape?
Yeah, right. So the thing about this stuff is that the problem with this is that they have laws that say the politicians can't do this, and then they say that foreigners can't endorse them. So the text that you saw in that intro where everybody is standing there showing off, and you see that red text above them. I'll put the White Tiger lady back up again. So you see that red text that's faded in there at the top? It says, "This is not a commercial or an endorsement. Please do not arrest me."
So now you're literally begging the Japanese not to send their...
Yeah. Well, they're all politicians, so if there was going to be a problem. So I had to make a choice. I was like, on one hand, I want to do this so it doesn't look like I'm endorsing this one guy that's running for office. Out of all of them right now, he's the only one that's actively campaigning for an open election right now. So I just want to make sure that I design all these armors so nobody's thinking that I'm making fun of them, because that's going to be even worse. So then I was like, what is comedy to these people? Just to make sure that I So I don't. What do conservative Japanese think is
how
a
do
joke,
Asian
you know?
people laugh? Because like, Siri, I need your help.
Sure, that was what I was asking myself. Yeah, but so believe it or not, I took a long time trying to get this particular suit right because it kept trying to put the tiger claws one on each boob, and I was like, you can't do that. That makes a tiger claw bikini, and I can't do that with future prime minister.
Yeah, you don't want to get
Definitely
the
go to
future
jail
Prime
for that.
Minister J cups either. I mean, that's also going to be a little bit obscene as well.
Oh, that. Oh, okay, cool. The future prime minister will see the video I made of her being the white tiger, white fang of Hyogo. Hopefully that doesn't have any negative connotations in Japan. I didn't bother to Google white fang if that was anything other than a
Cider
Gundam
here
wing
is
thing.
just like casually starting international conflicts right now.
Yeah, right? You know, I'm going to get a phone call from him like, Mr. Cider, what have you done now?
Because you shouldn't be worried about the people who are in this video. You should be worried about their opponents because now you're going to be their target.
Okay, so I need to put fan art. Okay, so I'll just remember going forward for all, if I ever do this again or if I get the itch to do it in the way that I've done it this time, I definitely will make sure to put in Japanese, this is fan art up in the corner or somewhere very obvious. So that way it's double, triple dip sure that there won't be any confusion.
Is there a way we can raise money to send Cider to Osaka just to see if the police will arrest him the second he gets off the plane?
That'd be hilarious.
They're just dragging him away. Like, what do I do? Like, you look a little like literally like Arnold Schwarzenegger in that one movie where he's like, what the fuck did I do wrong? Tell me.
So, and this is another fellow that's been serving for quite a while in the national diet. And he's a fellow that has, I wouldn't say one of those like warfighter records, but he has a record of being a guy that just doesn't back down. Like he's just got that, I have the idea, it's this way and no way other. And so I called him the Flying Fist because I didn't really know how to characterize that any better. So I imagined a helicopter and a bulldozer for his machine. So like combined. Flying bulldozer.
Yeah.
So, shouldn't she be called the White Claw? No fangs depicted. Well, White Claw's a drink, and so everybody in America is going to be like, so she's an alcoholic, you know? And that's
then you're going to have new lawsuits.
Yeah, right. I don't need to imply the future prime minister's a wino, you know? I don't need to throw a carbonated wino, you know? I don't need to do that. That's definitely going to get me super arrested. There's no Miranda warning in Japan, right? I don't. Yeah, they're not even going to announce like you're under arrest. Cider. They're just going to grab me, and black bag me, send off to Japanese Guantanamo.
Oh God!
You'll be pulling your luggage out of the trunk, and just like a white van will pull up next to you, just drag you in.
Yeah, right. Just a bunch of guys wearing like dollar store ninja costumes steal me. You know.
Maybe
Gold
that's
Claw?
Will Smith's next film.
Well, and that's just it. Is like, if you can't tell, Mr. Aoyama, and Mr. Nagase are both wearing suits that have lightning bolts, whereas you have Kata and Takaichi are wearing the claw. And so I decided I would just like these guys. When I looked, here's my secret sauce. I look into the eyes of the person that I'm trying to create a suit for, the picture, and my mind just draws the suit around them. That's it. It's like the transformation sequence happens in my brain, and what their suit should look like comes to my mind. That's it. And I just chase the AI around until it creates what I think. And so this guy had like a vehicle look to him. He looked more like vehicle guy, you know? And then that's what happened with Nagase is I was like, oh, vehicle guy. And what happened with Mizu is that, excuse me, not Mizu. What was her name? Mizuho. Sorry. Mizuho. Sorry. What happened with her suit is I decided I didn't want to make her a claw because, to my knowledge, she's in a slightly different position than National Diet. I could be wrong. Again, I studied as a hobby. I don't know everybody exactly. And so I decided I liked her having this different motif because she was part of a different part of the government. And so I could be wrong on that one, but that's why I gave her a different motif than the others. So that's all. There you go. There's the Hyogo heroes. Yeah, they'll send the Yakuza after me. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm sure. They're gonna be very perturbed over my AI Super Sentai. That's definitely going
Nah,
to make
they'll
my...
just take you to the back room in Fiji sake.
Yeah, right. The big sake plate there. Make you drink out of the big sake plate. Oh, he's
Now,
a
if you don't
racing
drink-
driver. What? I had no idea he's a race car driver. Well, I'll just have to stop the bulldozer helicopter thing and just put like a tank and race car, I guess. That'll be the two of them together. So I had no idea he was a racing race car driver. That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, I'm glad I could entertain you with all of these. That's the goal, is to entertain, you know?
There is one thing I will say is that these guys in like Sentai suits look a lot better than like our 50-year-old Power Rangers when they're in
Yeah,
their
they
suits.
Well, AI does a lot. I'll tell you, AI does a lot here.
I mean, you got like Facelift Billy, and then like, you know, Dad Bod Cadernis over there, and then like PTA Mom Catherine all in there. It just doesn't work very well anymore.
Yeah, you know, like Rocky, the Firehouse Chili champion, you know, hot dog eating contest champion 6 years in a row, you know. And then you've got these guys who just kind of, the AI does help them a little bit here and there, but yeah, they could probably jump into a Sentai suit. I'm pretty sure everybody here could jump into a Sentai suit pretty simply. There might need to be adjustments because they're older people and can't move like a stunt actor can, but you know, yeah. This is my thinking behind all this is I was like, would it be too goofy if any of them ever just tried to make these suits in real life because they liked them so well? They asked like a local suit fabricator to put it together. And so I wanted to make sure that like, if anybody got the idea to make these, they should look like screen accurate. You know, they look, if you're walking down the street wearing one of these, someone should stop you and ask you what television show you're from.
Yeah.
You know, that's the idea. So, but yeah, that's how I'm going to jail. So now you know how I am going to Japanese jail.
Well, Will Smith should go to Japanese jail for trying to make anime. I'm not looking forward to seeing that. Because Will Smith is doing... Because I'm looking at this, and this got, for me anyway, this went viral when I posted it, is Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith's Westbrook partners are teaming up with, do you need the link?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, let me give you the link, hold on.
Sorry, we'll get that pulled up in just a minute. I had no idea they were making anime.
Yeah, they're teaming up with, I sent it to you earlier, but they're teaming up with this newly formed studio called Azuki, which is a joint effort. It's a venture between NFT brand Azuki and Japanese companies Kamisma Inc. and Zenotune Inc. And they're going to develop, the new studio is going to develop and produce and globally distribute original intellectual properties and anime adaptations through what the partners describe as unique production models shaped by Azuki's creative DNA. And in my replies, like people are like coming up with the most hilarious things that they say about like this going to be and there's going to be so many NTR animes coming out of it because of,
nobody likes Nido Rare. Everybody needs to stop that right now. It's terrible.
But this is what the Westbrook CEO Koyata said, is that at Westbrook, our mission has always been to tell stories that connect, inspire, transcend borders. And partnering with Studio Azuki is a powerful step in that direction. And their creative vision and cultural insight align seamlessly with our global strategy. And together, we're excited to identify and develop projects that resonate deeply with audiences around the world, blending authentic storytelling with boundary-pushing innovation.
I don't believe it. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's just going to be like another... It's gonna be one of those Amerime things where it has like way too much American attitude to it, like that She-Ra cartoon. I guarantee you it's gonna be like that.
Well, they're saying that they want to, what Studio Azuki said here is that they're a US-based, at least in this first paragraph here, it's a US-based animation house that aims to pioneer next-generation anime content for global audiences. So, yeah, it's probably, like you said, it's going to be like the Tumblr, like a Tumblr anime kind of situation.
Yeah, and they don't even provide like any like, oh, they're gonna work it. Here we go. Yeah, that's all you need to know. That's all she wrote right here, folks. The Studio Azuki itself represents a joint venture between NFT brand Azuki.
Oh, remember NFTs? Remember when those were a thing?
Yeah. Japanese companies Cosma rather, Inc. and Xenotune. The new studio will develop and produce this stuff, like Nerdigan said, intellectually. But this NFT stuff is what's the most important part right here. That's all you need to know about this whole thing is that they have joined up with an NFT producer, and so that is gonna crash and burn. There you go.
Everything about this sounds like a Ponzi scheme.
Yep, this is definitely to suck some money either in or out of Japan, one or the other. Nobody is going to walk away from this happy, that's for sure. Speaking of not being happy, though, we do have an Automaton article about racism. Oh, no. We have Kill la Kill premier animator faces backlash over supporting openly racist politician. Now, you might wonder here what this was. So we're going to
see a lot of symbols and squiggly lines.
So it says, Trigger-san, despite just announcing Edge Runners 2, has publicly supported a racist politician. This level of discriminatory remark is something even Trump wouldn't mess up. It's only a matter of time before it spreads in English and becomes an issue. Now, I'm told it's because this fella expressed a displeasure with the amount of Chinese people that are coming into the country. And that's what the hang-up is here, is that this is about China, if you prefer.
Everything comes back to China.
Right now, all roads lead to China. Right now, but yeah, they're bad roads. Don't worry, they're all bad roads. But
I mean, they're Chinese. I mean,
so they essentially what's coming here is that the Chinese are moving into Japan in large numbers to escape the CCP's collapse. The CCP is in interior freefall. Exterior, they're trying to show the world they make robots now, and they can play robot soccer. They're very good at it, and they're not. But whatever.
So here, before we get any further, here's my immediate question. Are these like the type of people that we see coming from Mexico to America, where they leave the place that's a crap hole and they want to go to a new place, and then almost immediately they start complaining that the new place isn't like the old place and trying to change it back to the old place? Or are these people like, okay, we fully understand that this did not work, we don't want to do this again?
So the problem with this is that the Japanese government has made a special effort to bring in Japanese businessmen. And so Chinese businessmen, excuse me. And so Chinese businessmen are typically attached to the CCP.
Yep.
There's no way to have a successful business in China that does not have a CCP party member sitting on the board. That's how that works.
I see problems.
Even your McDonald's, your Chinese McDonald's, whatever those chain restaurants would be, they have a CCP party member. Your daycare centers that have a chain store operation to them, those are CCP members. Basically, if it's more than a lemonade stand, like a mom and pop shop, you have to have a CCP party member that is not necessarily a contributor to the business, but moreover a tattletale that if you decide or think anything outside of what the party wants, you will be dealt with. So that's why this is a problem, is because this, of course, they come in, right? The Chinese people come in and they are, of course, CCP members. They're only leaving because they can't make their money there anymore. The government's made it too difficult for them. And so they've come here with the same values, same ideas, and they bring more Chinese with them. And pretty soon the voting demographic shifts rapidly. And that's how they took over Tibet. That's how they take over these places, is the Chinese go in and they do these Belt and Road initiatives. And everyone goes, oh, yes, it's so nice. The Chinese have come in and built this sports studio, and they've built this bridge, and they've built this massive aquarium. The problem is that they only hire Chinese labor, and they got to bring them in. So you bring in 10,000 Chinese laborers, and only 4,000 go home.
That sounds like a problem.
Yep. Then you've got the Vietnamese, who are basically Japan's Mexicans, and they come in, they go to active job sites, and they say, "Hey, SA, you're charging too much for this, eh? So we're going to make sure that you have less money here, okay? So you pay us tens of thousands of US dollars less than the men you have working now." Boom. They just show up. There's just like gangs of them that just show up and take over a job site by undercutting the people that are already there. It's absolute chaos.
Isn't it just amazing that it seems like every single country in the world right now is having the exact same issue when it comes to immigration and migration and just the complete, overwhelming of the system and wanting to change the system and breaking down the whole country financially. It seems like everyone's having just the exact same problem right now. Except
China.
maybe Canada, because Canada kind of sucks. But I mean,
No, they
everybody
have
else-
it. They got China. They got China. Vancouver is called Hongcouver now. It might as well be.
See, I thought that India had BTFO China, but apparently
You'd think.
I mean Canada.
Well, that's just it. Is that like, yeah, China Junior, Canada. But yeah, you'd think that's the case, but really, it's the Chinese that are in control. They have all the money. The Indians might have the numbers, right? But the Chinese are the ones that have the influence and control because they brought the money in. And that's what happened to Canada. Canada was like, we need money. Well, let's bring in this Chinese investment. And they were like, yes, good.
Vancouver's always hold on, but to be fair, like I went to Vancouver like over a decade ago, and it was like there's a certain part of Vancouver that's basically like a Chinatown, like the size of like maybe even like it would rival San Francisco's Chinatown or Los Angeles's Chinatown. It's pretty damn big.
To be fair, I was thinking more of like Ontario. Like Ontario might as well be like Syria North at this point.
Yeah, that's what it feels like.
Again, like we're neck deep in our own issues here, and so Japan, this politician is seeing the chaos that the West is dealing with, not just Europe, not just the USA is dealing with. How Trump is having such a battle to try and sort out who's supposed to be here, let alone get them moved back to where they came from because they illegally entered. Now, regardless of how
the only
feel,
problem with that is, like I said, and it's more on how we've run things over the last 5 years prior, but at this point, there's just so many. It's like even with a strong effort to try to do that, there's gonna be problems, and it's just more. It's not more of them, going forth of actually trying to solve the problem. It's like you've let it go on for so long that now it's like almost impossible to really, do what needs to be done. And like I said, if we start, well, go ahead.
I'll tell you, traffic in California has been pretty light recently.
Oh yeah, because everyone's in hiding. It's great.
So I'm just saying, there's no more traffic problem in California right now. I'm just saying,
So somebody was like, "Holy shit! I made it to the 101 in 20 minutes. How the fuck did this happen?
Am I dead? Did I die? Is this heaven? Is this highway heaven?" But yeah,
did the apocalypse happen?
See, and this is what this guy in Japan is seeing. He's seeing this chaos, this suffering, this agony that both sides are facing. People who have rooted their lives here despite not having citizenship, and folks that don't want to see that happen because opportunities are lost for folks who are born here. And so this politician rightfully says, I don't want Chinese coming in here because they're all Communist Party members. And they are. In order to live in Japan, in China, you have to be a Chinese Communist Party member or you die.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of similar to, but like it's kind of, you have the other situation too, because there's a lot of Chinese that immigrate to Australia, and in Australia, the Chinese there, they, from what I know, because I have a friend that lives in Australia and documents protests, they protest against the CCP like every Sunday.
Australia?
Yep.
Yeah, the Chinese in Australia. Yeah, they the Chinese immigrants down there too.
Okay, I thought you were talking about the Australian people. I was like, that's a shocker. But then
no.
They
sold their milk. They sold their milk.
I was about to say, wait, what?
Yeah, the Chinese immigrants down there protest. They've been doing it for like at least 5 years now. They've been protesting the CCP without fail every Sunday.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wouldn't not, like I said, at least these people understand. It's like, yeah, we left our place for a reason because that place sucks. We actually don't want to bring that over here because then that made us coming here completely moot.
Jake? Most are Chinese CCP loyalists. Oh, okay.
Like my thing is like trying to weed out between the ones that basically have no choice but they would be loyalists because they don't want to disappear, and ones who are like generally loyalists of the CCP.
And I just, if you're a businessman in China, I'm sorry, nope, it's not happening. It's not.
Yeah.
You go to India because all the factories are going down there from China. You'll be well regarded. They'll be very happy to have you. You know how to build the things that they're inheriting building.
Okay, hold on.
So
Let's slow down now. Look, I know we don't like the CCP here, but going to India, I mean that's like a fate worse than death. I mean,
well, look, these guys, they do not
India
belong
is
in
basically
in
like
Japan.
India is basically like the shadow realm of Earth. It's like,
You sure that's not sub-Sahara Africa? Or like
Well,
Somalia?
You know, you get into the Central Congo, and it's a special shade of hell. That's for sure. You get into Central Congo, it's a special shade of hell. But Leslie says a lot of farmers are suffering because migrant workers won't show up to work. Those with the work visas, right? Because they're afraid that they'll get nabbed.
Well, the thing is, farming nowadays is mostly machine operated now, so they're technically not needed as much as like people think they are.
Well, and that's just it, is that like the problem that we're facing here in the West is that we have a mentality that certain types of labor are not meant for us because we are so special and perfect and wonderful, and we don't deserve to do those jobs. And again, that's because of so many years of relying on people who have lived in the shadows to do those jobs, pretending that they just get done by magic fairies, apparently. And so that's what this attitude is about continuing to have people around, and these people have these visas, and they're nervous because they're being told in their community that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You'll be picked up because Trump hates you because you like tacos or whatever. You know? Exactly. And so they live in fear.
burritos too. Don't forget the burritos.
Oh, sure. And they live in fear of this, though. And that's why they don't show up to this job sites, like what Jacob was saying. Everybody's in hiding because they believe that they'll be picked up because even though they've followed the law and done the right thing, nobody cares. Despite the numerous amount of times where ICE has said, whoops, we picked up the wrong guy. He showed us his papers. We let him go. That was our bad. We picked him up as a group, sorted out the guys that were supposed to be here. Our bad. Hope nobody got hurt. It's just, they even nabbed a soldier. They nabbed the soldier thinking he wasn't supposed to be here. And that's just how it goes, you know? Again, if I was in Japan and they were rounding up people who weren't supposed to be there, I would expect to have to at least prove that I am supposed to be there. I would expect that. Not because I am someone new to the country, but because I am a white man. I purely would expect.
When did your visa expire, sir?
Right. It's kind of obvious I'm not from around here. So I would hope that somebody would say, wait a minute. You know, and so, you know, Australia was nearly kicked out of Five Eyes due to how much they've been inflicted. Yeah, exactly. They sold their milk production to China. The milk that's made in Australia belongs to China. Unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable.
I mean, China, in a lot of ways, it's like everyone talks about China being somewhat of a paper tiger. It's only because they essentially offer to do what other countries, quote unquote, don't want to do for a very, very cheap price. And it makes it to where they essentially have to compete with, like I said, these overseas factories that are handling milk production. And like I said, several years ago, we were arguing about, why are all of our pharmaceuticals made in China? Do you not see that as a bad thing or a bad idea? It's like, maybe don't give all the people who need, like I said, these pills to live or to get better or whatever the case may be. Maybe we shouldn't have China holding us over a barrel like this. But at the same time, if all of these countries were to say, we don't want to go with cheap labor anymore, like I said, China would literally fall overnight. Like, that's kind of their thing that they've been, I don't want to say a scam, even though you can arguably say it is a scam, but that's kind of what they've been doing to a lot of nations for quite some time now. And I think people are starting to, at least modernly, they're starting to figure out that this has always been the plan, and that, you know, there is kind of a house of cards this thing is built on.
And that's just what it is right here, is that in Japan, he's explaining that, like Alpha Omega is saying here, that currently farm management automation is used by about 21% of farmers. And again, the farming population in Japan is dropping rapidly because, you know, nobody's really taking pride in that anymore with their children. They're telling them to go off and get these powerful office jobs. You know, that's what you do. And that's, there might be some families that want to enshrine that tradition, but largely the culture has said the farm is not cool.
Yeah,
So,
it's similar to what we've done here in the United States, where we've told everyone to go out there and get those white collar jobs that pay six figures, and meanwhile, all of the blue collar, trade jobs that are out there that pay just as well, if not better, and will not put you at nearly as much debt as all those white collar jobs do. Those have just been like completely like thrown to the wayside. So, like I said, it's not as sexy to be like a farmer or a plumber or an electrician as it is being the CEO of this Fortune 500 company, because that's what everyone's been chasing for 20, 30 years, and the effects of that has been detrimental, especially financially, for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, and again, like as automation is kind of coming through, we see this video of the blueberry machines that are picking the blueberries and doing the blueberry business. And again, like growing rice and harvesting rice is a vastly different process than that, but the machines will largely probably look the same, just kind of rectangles with wheels that move through the water and pick up the rice, they're supposed to separate it, however it's supposed to work. And that's just what it is. And it's sad. It's very sad, but in a lot of ways, the U.S., like I was talking about earlier with that copycat thing, the U.S. saw Japan's overpopulation and then overcorrection with that overpopulation issue, and then just decided to follow it note for note.
And then you have to ask yourself, was there really an overpopulation issue? Because like you said, that overcorrection has now caused a significant birth decline and essentially a population collapse. So you have to kind of ask yourself, well, if you were sustaining for all this time, and then you said that, oh no, we're overpopulated, we have to do this, and now your population's on a free fall as a result, you have to ask yourself, well, was there really a problem to begin with?
And that's just, you got it right here. Manual labor is very much looked down on in Japan, around the world, really. As we've modernized the entire globe, it's become apparent that, farming isn't cool. So
yeah, it depends on, what country and obviously the culture. Because, like here in the United States, they just say like some trade jobs pay like crap. It really depends on what you're doing. Like I said, electricians. I know electricians that get paid at least low six figures just by going to different jobs all around the world and stuff like that. Not around the country, I should say. There are manual labor jobs that do pay very, very well. I know a guy who basically gets paid six figures to cut down trees in the South. We're literally talking about like I said, just kind of like basic, hey, I can't afford to, move this, do myself. I need somebody else to do it for me. And then all of a sudden, well, there you go. It has, exactly, right? And it's kind of the opposite problem. Like, so culturally here, as I was saying earlier, is like, I know that the big thing has been we don't really glamorize those jobs as much as we do the fortune jobs. And I guess in other countries, like I said, that kind of work is kind of looked down upon. It's like, oh, you're one of the poorest, quote unquote, or you're essentially in a lower class because you're doing these type of jobs, not realizing, like I said, everyone else is trying to rat race each other for these, hypothetical Fortune 500 jobs that they're all putting themselves in debt under it. Then you realize this guy over here, it's like, wow, I made it out of school like 3 years and I'm already making like 80 grand a year and I've pretty much already paid off all my debts and now I can actually save money. Oh crap, I can afford to have a family now. So it's like, but they said we don't prop that up. That's kind of the way of success, at least here. I said, I can't speak for other countries, but I know for this one it's definitely been an issue.
You don't get to go to college and get drunk and make a bunch of mistakes that you have like terrible reflections and or happy moments over for the rest of your life. You wake up the next day and you're a man. That's it.
There's one thing that I will push back on, the whole idea that the only reason people aren't having kids is because they're broke. I don't know, if you guys have been in poor neighborhoods. I've had more experience in those type of neighborhoods. Being broke and not having money, quote unquote, has not stopped any of those people from having kids. And there's a lot of places in this country where, people just breed like crazy, even though they don't have the ability to do things. And that's part of the reason why is because they know that there's a lot of assistance for, certain people who have, a whole bunch of kids and not really a sound support system. There was literally a video we talked about maybe about a couple hours ago where this woman is buying like $3,000 a month in like food stamps because she has like 7 kids, right? And literally me and Mongo were just talking about this. It was like, and this is the kind of the big problem that's gone underlined in America for so many years, is that these people who are essentially replaced a a safe structure in the family with, hey, look, if you have a bunch of kids, there's some tax write-offs for you. We'll give you some financial assistance programs. And a lot of women kind of bought into that and basically just said, oh yeah, I'll just have the government be dad now because I don't know where baby daddy is. And that's something that's been plaguing, I will say this, the black community, our community, for quite some time. I'm talking about at least, 70 years now that this has kind of been a thing. And this is, like I said, it's a whole other rabbit hole we can get into, but I've talked about this many, many times before. It's like when you actually look at, financially and kind of like stably and family wise, how our nation has kind of declined over the last 60 years. We're always told that, the 1950s was like this terrible time, like in America. It was horrible and things have gotten better as a result. I think to myself, have they really gotten better? Like, you realize that there was a certain point in time in this nation where, like, your change, like dimes and quarters, were actually made out of real silver that was probably worth more than the actual monetary cost of the coins
Pennies
itself.
used to be spendable.
And then you talk about hyperinflation. It's like, dude, we've watched old episodes of The Price is Right. Why do you think that, cars in 1976 were only $3,000 or $4,000 and now they cost you $50,000? It's like, that's literally the value of your dollar eroding rapidly over the course of several decades. The family structure has been completely destroyed. Either people are just having kids out of wedlock and creating broken homes, or people are feeling like there's too much stress in their life to have kids, so they delay it for 10, 15 years. It's like, we're not better off than we were 60 years ago, or whatever the case may be. That's kind of the illusion when you really start looking at it. It's like, there's a reason why people are more unhappy now than they were before. There's a reason why your grandparents could afford to buy a 6-bedroom house when he was basically working as a plumber in a one income job. Like, a lot of things have changed, and I don't think people really click to why these changes have happened.
I can't find the magazine ad from Spider-Man 1 where it was like $6,000 for a convertible. I forget which car it was, but it was a convertible, obviously, so it was a roadster or whatever. But yeah, in the Spider-Man 1, he was going to go win a fight against Randy Savage, Bonesaw, in order to win the money to get a car to impress Mary Jane. $6,000. That's what bought you a brand new convertible back in 2000-aughts when Spider-Man 1 came out.
And even then, I have to believe that that's probably low for the aughts in 2001 too. Like, dude, I'm old enough to remember. I'm old enough to remember back in the days where gas in California. I remember the first time gas in California hit $2 a gallon, and people freaked the F out. They had never seen gas that high before. There was meltdowns, there was anger, all kinds of stuff. Now, what is gas in California right now? It's probably like $6, somewhere around that.
Put it on Klarna.
Yeah, but like I said, it's all a thing. Why do you think you see those old ads where it's like, oh, get a cheesy beefy burrito from Taco Bell for 98 cents? You walk into a Taco Bell right now, it's damn near $6. The same burrito, it hasn't changed. They didn't put nothing new in there. It just costs $6 now.
Remember when Taco Bell's bean burritos used to be 89 cents? And now they're like almost $2.
Long ago now.
In a distant land.
Right. It's pretty distant at this point. Pretty unrecognizable when you get down to it. But on that topic, I do have another one here. This is a bit of a nostalgia thing for me this morning when I was looking for stuff to post on the Twitter account. So here you have my lights came on. How about that? But here you have a ye olde advertisement from back in the day. So your choice for $150. That's right. Fun-filled interactive website, toysrus.com. There's Jeffrey surfing on a computer mouse. Wow.
The good Jeffrey, not the psycho-looking Jeffrey.
Right.
I'm going to give a very controversial opinion, and you guys prepare to be very angry in the comments right now. The Nintendo 64 is not nearly as good as a console as you guys remember. There was like 4, maybe 5 good games in the entire generation of the 64, and then they just moved on to another console. Like, a lot of the games that came out in that era were actually kind of trash. Like, everyone can give your id to, like, you know, Star Fox and Donkey Kong and that one Mario game and that one pro wrestling game that you guys play. But when you look at the whole overall, I guess, catalog of N64 games, it wasn't really that great. And it didn't really last very long.
No, you had your Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie. You had your GoldenEye 64. You had Perfect Dark. You had, obviously, you said Donkey Kong Country 64, Super Mario 64, Pokemon Stadium 2. You had Pokemon Snap, Pokemon Puzzles. I love Pokemon Puzzle League. That's a guilty pleasure.
I played Pokemon Snap. It gets very dry.
I love it. I love Pokemon Snap. I do not care.
You didn't like
And Mario. You forgot one thing, Jacob. Super Smash Brothers 64. As well as Mario Kart 64.
Well, Mario Kart 64 was definitely trash, especially compared to the Super Nintendo version. I will willingly die on that hill.
So, just taking a look at these prices, everybody says $80 games are crazy, and then you have the N64 saying, "Oh no, you're gonna pay $74.99 for Doom." That's right. That's what you're gonna do. You're gonna pay that.
Hey guys, you're gonna pay $70 for Star Wars, and that was before the prequels.
You're going to pay $70 for Wayne Gretzky's 3D hockey.
Yeah. Or whatever the hell, what was the one right before that? Some kind of basketball game. NHL 97, I actually do remember that one.
Yeah. There you go. You got the Die Hard trilogy on PlayStation. So there you go. Play as a bald man. Be great. Need for Speed 2. Remember that? Back when that was 2. Remember that? And, of course, the Tiny Toons Game Boy game, I had that. That was a thing that you did. And, yeah. So you go.
I actually did used to own Tiny Toons Buster's Great Adventure at one point.
Oh, yeah. I love that game. That game was fun.
The art style on those games were pretty good, in my opinion. I liked them.
For the time,
weird reason, I completely bypassed the PS1 era almost entirely. Like, the whole PS1 era is like a blur to me because it was like somewhere between like the end of Genesis and like the beginning. Because to me, it was like I was still like Sega and Nintendo. And then I remember PlayStation coming out. By the time I really cared about PlayStation, like PlayStation 2 is basically already out. So it's like there's a lot of stuff from that PS1 era that's just basically like a blur to me.
Yeah, the N64 was incredibly expensive. Yeah, it really.
Especially
Nintendo
if you
has had
wanted
a
that
bad habit of that.
Especially if you wanted that atomic purple one, like that one's
Oh,
probably
yeah.
still like about like $400 if you try to buy it on like eBay right now.
Yeah, especially
And this is
when
why-
we got into
no.
see-throughs, it was nuts.
But this is why you went to Costco and got like one of the bundles from Costco, because you got the system, you got and you got a game with it. Well, in my case, I got the Pokemon bundle, so I think it was was it Pokemon Stadium? I think I got. Yeah, I think it was Pokemon Stadium, and you got. I think did we get a memory card with it? No, I think you had to buy.
Look at me, I'm
the memory
nerdigans.
card.
I could afford to go to Costco in 1997.
My mom had the membership in 1997.
I didn't even know what a Costco was in 1997.
Mm-hmm.
We got. I got mine.
I went to Circuit
64 in
City like a
1999.
man, nerdigans.
Hey, I went to Circuit. I only went to Circuit City on Black Friday to get like $5 CDs.
I think we made this joke on Saturday, Cider. Circuit City is that store that you remember going to and you remember walking around, but you can't remember ever buying anything from them, which is probably why they went under.
I remember buying stuff from Circuit. Yeah, as I said, the only time I went to Circuit City was on Black Friday when they had the $5 CDs and like I think even $5 DVDs too. I would buy as well, but yeah, it was Circuit City and Best Buy on Black Friday. They used to have it to where like the majority of the CDs in the store were like $5. And I remember my mom took me and like we went first thing in the morning and we had like the pick of the litter and it was crowded too at the time. But yeah, like I loved it. I miss like old school Black Friday. It was fun.
No, we
Back
used to
when
call
you
it
could trample
Blockbuster
people to
Friday.
death. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, we used to just go to Blockbuster and get like that cheap ass bucket of popcorn that you have to put in the microwave, and then like rent a couple of like giant VHS tapes that you have to watch it that night because you have to bring it back like the very next morning. Plus, you have to rewind it, or they charge you for that. They charge you for not rewinding stuff.
That was so dumb.
So, Timon says PS1 era still has the best gaming. PS1 had an absurd amount of great games. I'm sorry, PS2.
PS2 is better.
Still today, revered, and the PS3 only recently has lost its support from PlayStation. That's how well regarded, beloved, and currently used that era is. So PlayStation 2, though, there are still like even now there are still game developers that are regularly referencing PS2 games as their inspiration, what got them into the whole process of making games and things like that. And I only bring that up and not to challenge you, but to point out that the PS2 took what was right with all that library and just kept doing it, but did it with more graphics, more polygons. That really, the PlayStation 2 entire business model was like, don't fuck up. Don't fuck up. That was the business model.
Dude, somebody needs to do a whole episode about what happened between like PlayStation 2 and 3 to like 4 and 5, like where
we have a nostalgia show that talks about that early 2000s stuff. Wow, what do you know? Crazy. Well, it would be a great place to talk about that if only somebody did that. Wow, crazy.
Yeah, but then how we're gonna watch Degrassi if we spend time talking about PlayStation?
We did that. That's over now, along with Drake. Remember, he died. Like our coverage of Degrassi.
He was dead. He didn't die. Yeah. He just wished he died.
Oh yeah, that's right. Wheelchair Drake.
That one guy got shot in the dick.
By the way, because we're talking about like prices. Because we were talking about prices. The snack wrap from McDonald's is coming back. I don't know if you guys know this or not.
The what?
McDonald's snack wrap. And
snack. Okay, I heard sack wrap.
You mean that chicken tender wrapped in tortilla that they charge you $5 for, and you buy it like a mark?
It's made
it
of
was
cardboard.
It was like $1.25, like about like 10 years ago.
And that's how much it's worth, Nerdigans. If you spend any more than $1.50 on those snack wraps, you are a mark.
McDonald's is charging $3 for it now.
Popeyes is trying to do the same thing. It's like, oh, get one of our wraps for like $3, and then you get it. It's literally like half of a spicy tender wrapped in like lettuce and a little bit of cheese and like some store-bought tortilla wrap.
So
you might as well make it yourself.
Speaking of letdowns, this piece of art flew around the internet recently. Just last week and over this weekend, it went pretty crazy. Now, you have to look close, but these are the two Rouges. This is Rouge as she originally showed up in the Sonic games, and then this is the Rouge we're stuck with now. And so the art here isn't exactly what I want you to focus on, but I'm going to leave that up because it's pleasant to look at while I read a user named Haley Ira, I think that's how you pronounce her name, commentating on the image. And what she has to say, I think, is really important because I thought about this for a long time when we first covered the censoring of Rouge when they went back and did it to the old games. I wanted to draw a line in the sand that it's not okay to have characters that are like that bluntly sexual. But I realized that these kids are going to encounter a Rouge in real life. And so having like some introduction to how that person behaves, and maybe that's not a person a child should be hanging around because Rouge is dangerous. She's constantly portrayed as someone outside of Sonic's morality, not entirely, but she goes beyond what he thinks is safe, thinks is right. Constantly. Yeah. So she is presented as someone you probably don't want to hang out with, but she is ultimately a good guy, you see. So this is what Haley had to say. She said, they stripped Rouge of everything that made her iconic. Her breasts, her curves, her deep skin tone, her bare back, her husky voice, her presence. This isn't progress, it's punishment. The message is clear. A woman's natural body is inappropriate. Her confidence is a threat. And her body, something to redact. Rouge wasn't censored. She was erased, rewritten into a sanitized placeholder to appease people who treat femininity as offensive. It's not empowerment. That's misogyny wrapped in a moral veil. This trend of dulling, censoring, and uglifying female characters isn't accidental or nuanced in any way. It's driven entirely by jealousy toward women and spite toward men who admire them. That's all it's ever been. Rouge was never problematic. She was an icon, strong, sexy, and distinct. She's been part of the Sonic franchise since 2001. For over 2 decades, her design, voice, and personality sparked no outrage, just admiration. But now her beauty is offensive? After 20 years? This revisionism, fueled by insecurity and sex, this is revisionism, rather, fueled by insecurity and sexist contempt. If you think her beauty needed to be erased, just admit you're a sexist piece of shit. And, you know, this other image kind of captured how I felt about it. It says, "Wait, we didn't want Rouge to be censored," cried the Sonic fandom. "Lol," said the progressive Sega company. Laughed my ass off.
So there's two ways you can look at this, because the first one, isn't her character supposed to be kind of like a femme fatale type character who uses her looks and sexuality to kind of deceive men and stuff like that? So when you make her kind of deceptively ugly, doesn't that kind of take away from the entire point of the character? It's like, imagine like turning Jessica Rabbit into like a 5, and then like, well, then no one's gonna be like jumping up and down on tables when she walks into a room. It's just like, oh, there's a girl. That kind of takes away from the lore there. And secondly, like I said, I feel like we've been doing this now for about a good 15 years, and I made the reference point to Mortal Kombat, right? So many people, and we know exactly who those people are, Sarkeesian, complained about like the costume design in Mortal Kombat 9. But that come out like 2009, 2010, somewhere around that time period. And ever since then, like I said, it's been overcorrection. And now here we are with, well, is the last one MK1 or MK11? I can't remember. I can't keep up with.
I think it's Mortal Kombat 11, and then it's and then it's Mortal Kombat 1, I think, right?
Yeah, well, whatever the most recent one is. We've seen those character designs. How?
Oh yeah, it's Mortal Kombat 1 is the most recent one. Yeah.
Yeah, like they've course corrected so far that now they just look visually unappealing. Now they'll try to sit there and say, that's the point of to be visually. No, it was not the point, actually. As you guys know, Mortal Kombat made Melina kind of like a sex icon for many, many years, and she literally has kind of a disfigured face. Like the whole lore of her character is supposed to be, oh, she looks just like Katana until she takes the veil off, right? And then you've basically thrown all that away by saying, no, she needs to look like a monster. It's like, sure, fine, whatever, watch your sales drop, who cares? But this is something that's been going on with, games for a while. And there's one last point I'll make there, but I want to go get your thoughts on this whole thing first.
Yeah, Nerdigans.
Here's the thing, and I say this a lot, is we women hate each other. We do. We are jealous beings, we are spiteful beings, and we are catty beings. We just straight up hate each other. And I say this a lot, is that Mean Girls is more than just a movie. It is a documentary. Like, we women treat each other like that constantly. We do. It's disgusting. I hate how we do it, but it's just the reality of things. And people are going to be like, oh, inclusivity and whatnot. But like the best example of this is, look at what happened to Barbie and how they tried to defeminize her. And you even have the gays pissed off about it, because gay men love femininity. A lot of them do. Love femininity. And they just don't want to be with a woman. But it's crazy to me that you have these people at Sega listening to people that don't even like their product. And now on the opposite side of things, going back to the doll thing for a second, Mattel is finally listening to its actual consumers, and it's and Barbie, if you haven't noticed since like the Barbie movie came out, the dolls are getting a little bit more feminine and a little bit more glam. But it's still not the same as like back in like, say, the 2000s or the 90s or the 80s. I don't think we're ever going to have like a hyper feminine, the girls will not have that hyper feminine doll ever again. Kind of like with what we're seeing with Rouge here. Rouge is not allowed to be hyper feminine because it's inappropriate.
Right. The boobs are scary. They're very scary. This is the thing that's irritated me for quite a long time, is I don't know how to communicate this very well. I don't know how to tell a parent that Rouge's cleavage is not going to corrupt their child, right? Because I don't want to make the case that should be even remotely allowed in any other form. This character, though,
Yeah, you also don't want to
trendy.
turn them into furries too. So I mean, we gotta be clear that there's a line.
There is an argument to be made that Sonic's played a big role in that. So you're not wrong to have that concern chiefly. Always check in with your son or daughter about how they feel about the family pet, okay? If they're telling you that the fur is very soft, it's probably time to get a bird. Just telling you. All right? So here's then there might be a problem with the bird, so I don't know. But anyway, again, this is very difficult to convince a parent to say, like, yes, Rouge's sexual energy in a children's franchise is not harmful. Because again, as we're trying to present here, Rouge is presented as a dangerous character. Yes, she plays a heroic role. Yes, she has a protagonist role within the Sonic franchise. However, she is meant to present as someone who has dubious, I got the booby part in there. You hear that? Dubious?
Yeah.
You hear that? Dubious ideas about what is right and wrong. She steals a lot. She aligns herself with Eggman sometimes. In fact, that's most of the time how Sonic ends up running into her, is because she's lied to Eggman to get a job with him. So it's a situation that continues to present to the child that a woman who presents herself this way is untrustworthy and or dangerous to have trust in. Let's put it that way. Whereas Amy, as abrasive as she is always at Sonic's beck and call. And this is the purpose of Rouge. She is meant to be the mirror universe version of Amy. She's meant to be everything that Amy is not, in order to draw the parallel that Amy is the good girl and Rouge is the bad girl.
Yeah, and then I think it's important with that too. You also have to kind of just propose that, hey, look, at the end of the day, it's supposed to bring Sonic closer to Amy. Like, that's whole storytelling arc. And like I said, I think the last time we've had kind of this version of Rogue goes all the way back to the GameCube era, maybe. I think it was probably the last era before the redesign, right?
I think she was in the Wii version too, I thought.
She was in Sonic Riders, and I remember that one. And then I think that was the last one she was in before the design reboot.
So there's a slight parallel to this too, and I know this is, like I said, this one's a little bit more complicated. Like I said, we're talking about essentially the mascot of a video game character that's generally a younger demographic, even though I guess you can argue that, there's guys like us who were actually around, who were kids during the first iteration of Sonic, so we've just kind of stayed in the realm of Sonic characters as time has gone on. But I'll make a quick parallel to this here. Now, in the world of pro wrestling, this is something that I've argued about, how fan bases have changed because essentially the target demographic has changed. And essentially, if you go back 25, 30 years ago, the target demographic for a lot of pro wrestling shows was essentially your 18 to 34 male demographic, right? That was your bread and butter back then, which means that the majority of the people watching at that time were in that one. Those were the ones who were buying t-shirts, watching the shows, watching the pay-per-views, all that good stuff. And then over the course of about, I say, 10, 15 years has shifted. That demographic kind of moved on into, let's say, MMA and UFC, and they weren't really with pro wrestling as much as they were. As a result of this, WWE kind of shifted their target demographic to, okay, well, we're not going to focus more on 18 to 34 males anymore. We're going to kind of be a little bit more family oriented. And that only lasted a couple of years. Then it kind of shifted to, well, actually, we want our fan base to be a bit more diverse. So let's see if we can make our fan base 50-50 men and women, right? And kind of split that whole demographic. And what I've always said about, doing stuff like that is that whenever you let women into your space, they're bringing their gay best friend with them. This is all going to come back, I swear, towards the end. So what happened here is that 30 years ago, you had, when you were booking for essentially that 18 to 34 male demographic, you had a lot of sexy ladies that were on the show. Why? Because that's exactly what men in that age range wants to see. Sexy, attractive looking women, people were complaining.
Is there an age range of men that don't want to see sex? I think old guys are just, men? Well, that's not an age range. You don't hit like 90 and all of a sudden want to suck a dick. That's not how that works. Right. It's not an age range, Jacob. But no, so
So what happened is that, when they stopped doing, that demographic, you aren't going to get, sexy ladies in swimsuits anymore. And then about 10 years afterwards, it was like, well, how do we bring women in here? Well, it's like, well, we can't hook women in with sexy ladies in bikinis. So it's like, let's essentially put the women in the same context as the men, right? Let's just go out there and put them out there and do everything the men can do, because the message that we want to see is that anything a man can do, a woman can do as well. And then that's essentially what you're stuck with now. The reason why I bring all this up is because news broke this weekend. There's been a huge debate about it ever since, that the ticket sales for an event called Evolution 2 has come out. Evolution 2 is a pay-per-view that is happening here in Atlanta this Saturday. For whatever reason, they decided they were going to put this pay-per-view directly across the street from a Beyonce concert that is happening the exact same time period. That's completely irrelevant to the
What is Evolution 2?
It is an all-women's pay-per-view, which means that every performer on the show will be a lady. There is no men on the show. It is an all-women's pay-per-view.
It's gonna fail.
Just came out. The
Jurassic
ticket sales
World
just came
Evolution
out.
2.
Yeah, in an arena that holds about 16,500 people, they have sold, as of this moment, 4,800 tickets. That is barely over 25% of the house, in case you are good with numbers, right? And everyone's now trying to figure out who they're going to blame for this. Everyone's saying, oh, this is TKO's fault. They put it in the same night of Beyonce. Oh, you guys didn't promote it well. Oh, the matches aren't good enough. And it's like, have you guys ever stopped to consider for 5 minutes, maybe your brand of female wrestling is not as marketable as Twitter allowed you to believe that it was?
It's wrestling.
Exactly. You guys have gone so far away from where you were 30 years ago, which, keep in mind, to this day is still the time period that the most people have ever watched this in not only just the United States, but all over the world. When it was at its zenith, now you have probably, 15% of that audience that remains. And let's be honest, when you consider the amount of men that you lost, it's probably far more than that. And now you're trying to essentially figure out, why is this failing? Why is this not working? Guess what? Your Twitter echo chambers are not real life. And when people try to come to you and genuinely be like, hey, look, if you want to increase your fan base, you got to appeal to more people than who you're appealing to now. You guys don't want to do that. And then you're kind of left in these situations like we're talking about with Sonic the Hedgehog and Mortal Kombat. And there's a multitude of other franchises that fall into this category here. You strayed away from who you had because you wanted to find this mythical audience that everyone's trying to find, this modern audience. Then when you can't find them, do you ever stop and say, oh, okay, I guess this didn't work. Let's go back to what got us to the dance. No, you don't. You double down and you triple down. Then you go to alienating people. And this has been the problem with so many franchises and so many IPs and so many hobbies that people used to enjoy, is that they've essentially been alienated in one way or another by the fan base that they used to be very, very loyal to. And now they're just trying to, they're basically like little nomads trying to figure out, okay, well, where do I go now? Because I can't go back to where I was, but I don't really know where my next step is. And this is essentially where we're here.
Well, and Kamchi, sorry, my apologies. He says, or they, could be a lady, I don't know. Again, parents forget to tell fiction and nonfiction, right? They forget to tell their children, this is not a real bat. You're never going to meet a bat walking around in a heart-shaped corset, son. You're going to meet human women, all right? You're going to have human children, all right, son? So that's he's right, or this person is correct, that this is not the correct way to raise your kid. You need to let them know the difference between reality and fiction. And if they don't understand that at 40, when they're running a franchise, that's a serious problem. If people are looking at Rouge and being like, this is a one-to-one parallel sexualization, blah, blah, blah. No, it is a cartoon bat, sir. It is a cartoon bat who's meant to represent nefarious intent. That's it. Reading more into that applies your perception to it. Yes, her boobs are out. Great. Fantastic. Those things are real in real life. You want your kid to be surprised by a couple of prize-winning gazungas? You want that? That's going to be real weird in Walmart when that kid goes, whoa, those are big. right? That's going to be real awkward for you. You could head that off right at the pass when he does that by himself, playing, Sonic and Friends, Sonic Riders, whatever, and he gets a load of rouge and goes, "Whoa, those are big," all by himself, right? And you don't have that incident in Walmart. Yeah. You have Kamchi. I'm going to get it right here. I'm sorry. Kamchi. Say it slower. And this results in a female being a non-female with not wanting a family. Sure, I can see the parallel here where you strip away these feminine ideas away from it, and you end up with women that don't want to apply feminine ideas to themselves any longer. They've been told that a Rouge the Bat that doesn't have these limitations, you see, these big jiggly limitations. Rouge the Bat that doesn't have these is preferable. And so you see a bunch of young women. I've heard stories. My third girlfriend in high school, she was heavy chested, and she complained that there was a constant effort to berate her over it. That it was something she was clearly in control of and was just doing this for attention and all of this stuff. And that that was quite bothersome to her, as Leslie was explaining earlier, that women are being discouraged from being feminine, and feminine sometimes means looking like Jessica Rabbit. That a lot of women think that's very feminine.
I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyway. This also leads to another point that's slightly on topic about, Hunter Schafer, who you guys know is like the trans actor who Hollywood's been parading around. There's talks about him being the new Zelda in the movie. I'm not sure how long that's gone around too.
That's over.
I would hope so, but no, it's Hollywood. I wouldn't put it past him. But then this is weird, I guess, push on Twitter and social media, be like, "Oh yeah, this chick is so hot," and it's like clearly him. It's like, God, can we stop here? It's like, just because this dude bought a pair of fake tits does not mean all of a sudden that he's quote unquote a hot chick, right? But it almost seems like that, the only way that they will let someone promote someone with a figure with big boobs is if it's not actually a woman, and that should be also equally as insulting as this whole conversation started in the first place.
I'll be completely honest with you. I saw more articles about that Canadian trans teacher guy wearing the fake boobs to make a point. Remember when he was faking being trans in order to make a point at school? I saw more articles about him than Sydney Sweeney. Just saying. But we have Kamchi here with another super chat saying entertainment and society loses creativity and morals. That's true. Those two things are inextricably linked, by the way. The further you get away from morality, the more derivative you become, because, again, there's only so many lanes you can take outside of the moral one. The moral one provides you a place to start as a foundation. The road out of that requires you explaining how that happened, and there's only so many ways that it does.
I'm actually glad you just read that super chat. Can we parlay this conversation real quick to Ironheart? Did you see the last 3 episodes of Ironheart?
No, I value my sanity. What?
Okay, I did. Spoiler alert: the series ends with Riri making a deal with Satan or Mephisto. I'm sorry, but that's essentially where it's at here, right? So I'm thinking to myself, and Masters of TDS called this perfectly a long time ago, and I wish he was here to give him credit. But the biggest problem with Riri as a character is that she is a villain who everyone is telling you is a hero. So in the context of the show, like I said, she basically runs away with all of the equipment that she was using at MIT. And then, of course, when MIT repossesses her suit, she now has to go into a life of crime to build her own suit. So she joins a game who steals people from the rich. And it's supposed to be like, well, they're stealing from rich people. And the what was the gentrification people, that's who they're stealing from. So it's okay when we do it. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever you say. Then when that whole thing falls apart, literally at the end of the series, she makes a deal with the devil. And I heard one of the creators of this show talking fairly recently. Now, in her mind, I'm pretty sure in the minds of a lot of psychopaths, they think that Riri Williams is actually an anti-hero. That's how they think that they're portraying her in the course of the show and then the comics, that she's in the same line of like, the Punisher. I mean, I guess depending on which episode, you can throw Magneto in there, even though he's more villain-like. People like, Wolverine, they think like, well, they're not really a hero because, they do bad things sometimes, but it's like, in their mind, they're ultimately still good. And something she had said was basically along the lines of, we're trying to accentuate her, shade of gray. And, we have to point out that she's not exactly black and white. There's shades of gray to her, too. It's like, no, here's the problem. The problem is that a lot of people try to create characters that are in this quote-unquote shade of gray. There is no shade of gray. There is black and white. There is good and evil. The only way you can create gray is by trying to blur the lines of what good and evil actually is. That's the only way you can get around that. Now, look, you can have a character who like is essentially good but does bad things for like whatever reason, right? And usually the motivation is either they've been put in a situation that they don't want to be in, but they have to do things and it goes against their morals and they hate it, but they have to do it because whatever the case is. That's how you kind of make a conflicted hero. In this show, you're not making a conflicted hero. You have a woman who is completely selfish in every single motivation that she has on this show. All she hear in the first episode is, I just want to be the best. I want to be the next Bezos. I want to be the next Gates. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's like, it's just me, I. You're a selfish narcissist who's essentially being masqueraded as this hero because, just to be honest, you're a black girl in an Iron Man suit, and that's all that it is. And the show doesn't even go to any attempts to try to make you likable at any point because they're putting you up with villains. They're putting you one-on-one with villains. They're trying to sympathize with the villainry. And then at the very end, like I said, you become literally the agent of Satan. That is not an anti-hero. That is not someone like I said, the Punisher, who, what does he do? He murders people. Murder is bad, right? But what's his justification? I'm murdering bad people who do bad things to other people. So in his justification, what he's doing is right because he's dealing with legitimately the bad people, the mob bosses, the cartel members and stuff like that, right? He's, in his mind, he thinks that he's doing good by doing bad. That is not the justification for this character right here at all. Everything that she does is completely selfish in nature, and you can't turn around and say, oh, well, she's a shade of gray. No, she's not. You're a shitty writer.
Here's the thing. So when Tony goes after the terrorist, it's clear that they have murdered people. Mm-hmm. Now, his Yemeni friend, I believe he's from Yemen, the professor, maybe that was his name, was Yaman, something like that. The professor he was with that got him, set him up with the arc reactor. That was a situation where he was shown that these were evil people and they had done evil things. Then they were shown torturing the village, right? So we the audience were very aware that these were the skullduggerest of evil doers, as George Bush called the terrorists. You remember that? Our code orange, danger alert orange terrorists here. We have like Riri Williams behaving like them. This is the problem, is that she's not far off from a kidnapping situation. She's justified everything else. So why not kidnapping? What's stopping it? Nothing.
And that's the thing. That's how she's always been written. Like, you guys were old enough to remember your boy Zach doing those videos, reading comic books on his lap. Like, literally pointing out that
back in my day, we had to do comic reviews in our car while we were coughing on our lap.
There was the infamous issue where Riri was essentially angry at her teacher. Yeah, exactly. Was angry at her teacher because she wouldn't give her the motivation that she needed to essentially be better. So she needed someone to tell her that you were not good enough, or somebody say something racist or sexist so she can use that as motivation. And her teacher refused to do that for her. She got angry at the teacher. This character has always been portrayed as a sociopath. And it's in a lot of ways, I can't even say even in the wrestling context, right? If you guys remember Kurt Angle's first run in WWE, he was a heel who thought that he was a babyface. And what I mean by that was he was clearly the bad guy, but in his own mind, he was the hero. He came out in the red, white, and blue, and then he would say that he was an inspiration to everyone. And then the next thing you know, he's giving a suplex to a 90-year-old woman. And that was his whole mentality. He was a guy who was clearly a villain masquerading as a good guy. But they're doing it in the context where the person who's the villain actually thinks that they're good. and then trying to convince you or gaslight you into thinking that they're good as well. It's like, that's not how this whole thing works.
So you have to remember. Well, I just want to say you have to remember where Tony Stark comes into all this. Okay, as the legacy character that Riri is supposed to be interacting with. All right, so they from the get-go they don't know how to write misunderstood genius. They have no clue how to communicate a character that is very intelligent but not very good with social stuff. Okay, when we got Tony Stark through the lens of Jon Favreau back before he was weird, or I guess weirder than usual, we got a Tony Stark that was out of step and using alcohol and perhaps other substances, womanizing, very aloof kind of character who was displayed as a rogue. He was out of step with the other geniuses around him. Obadiah Stane was constantly trying to control Tony, keep his ego under management, this sort of thing. Jarvis did the same, that kind of stuff. And of course, Pepper was constantly chasing after him to remind him of his humanitarian duties. So we were shown a man that was not interested in the functions of a day-to-day life. He wanted to focus on his genius. Reed Richards is the semi-better suited version of this. Yes, he slapped Sue. Yes, he's absolutely a woman beater, but like half of Marvel's heroes are at this point. So here's the thing. Tony went through a transformation that alerted him in this story that his life was precious. He had not deemed it such. If you're paying attention to that character, he did not value himself until Iron Man 2. Okay, however you might feel about Iron Man 2, that was the part of the story where Tony found self-acceptance. Okay, Iron Man 3, how Tony got his groove back is terrible. I refuse to acknowledge it as part of this. All right, we're moving on.
Trash.
So here we go. The situation with Riri is that she comes into this having an attitude of, I refuse to acknowledge I have a problem. At no point was Tony behaving that he was in the right. That was the point why he hired Pepper. He kept saying, you're the one that humanizes me. You're proof I have a heart. That kind of attitude to her. Because she is the link to humanity for him. Riri is written as a character who does not possess that social connection that Tony lacks as well, that Reed Richards from the Fantastic Four lacks as well. She is written as someone who has no link because she's not supposed to. Like you said, Jacob, she is a sociopath because these people think misunderstood genius is 2 steps from Helter Skelter. That is the person they believe is a misunderstood genius that has transcended morality. That's not a misunderstood genius. A misunderstood genius is just a guy that doesn't do well at parties unless he's drunk. That's it. That's a misunderstood genius.
Like, look, if you guys, I've been doing movie reviews for a long time now. I think I just recently passed about 9 years that I've been doing this. And as you guys know, with my reviews, I tend to focus a lot on storytelling and character. Does the story make sense? Does the character motivations make sense? Stuff like that. And here's the big problem with Riri, especially when you try to, I guess, juxtapose her to Tony Stark. Tony Stark was a narcissist who had to learn how to be a hero. Like, if you go back to early Tony Stark, he was a womanizer, he was a drunk, he was a guy who knew that he was smarter than everyone else and then simply didn't care. All he wanted was his name on all, his equipment. He wanted all the glory of being the guy that caused the ruckus at, the military meetings and stuff like that. That's all he cared about. Then he had to have what was called a redemption arc. This is why a lot of movies fail these days, because, and I'll say this very, very strongly, there are a lot of people in Hollywood who simply hate the idea of biblical redemption. Here's what I mean by this. When Tony Stark was in that cave, he got kidnapped by the terrorists. He realized at that moment what his actual, weaponry was doing to the world. That there were people out there killing using his equipment. That people were actually dying in the world, and that his name was attached to it. So he had to essentially accept the fact that his face and his name had been involved with a multitude of war crimes that he couldn't even imagine. So when he came to that realization, he realized that he had to stop being being selfish. He had to stop being, pretty boy douchebag guy, even though he still was for a little bit. But he realized that I need to do something right. I need to make this right. I need to actually be a net positive for the world rather than the net negative that I am now. So this is his motivation to the Iron Man suit. When he started becoming a hero, it's like, I have to protect New York from an alien invasion, right? I have to be the leader of this team that is essentially looked at as the heroes of the world. He got so obsessed with being this person, it led him to a point where, I guess you could say, borderline fascism, where he wanted every superhero registered and under the arms of the government.
He built Ultron before that.
Oh, the Ultron thing. But all of this stuff was leading because he thought that if he didn't do this, and this was a big part in Infinity Wars and Endgame, he felt like if he didn't do this, if he didn't make the sacrifices necessary, people were going to die and it was going to be his fault. That was the whole big arc with his character. So this is a guy who, like I said, had no motivation to do any good whatsoever, yet as the years going on to becoming a hero, he learned how to be a hero. He learned how to take responsibility, accountability for his actions. It was a complete character progression from Iron Man 1 all the way to Endgame. That's why everyone loves Tony Stark as a character. These people just want to be accepted and liked without having to go through that same struggle that all of those other characters went through. You're not giving anyone a reason to care. You're just saying, oh, here's a black girl in the Iron Man suit. She's amazing, and if you don't think so, you're a bigot. And we're not going to do any of the character things, any of the story things that we do with all those other characters that you actually like. We're just going to present you a character and tell you that you like it. And that's why the overwhelming majority of these MCU characters and Marvel characters over the last 10, 15 years have been rejected. This is why a whole bunch of movies stink these days, because they don't want to make the path of essentially redemption. A lot of them don't believe in redemption. If you watch a lot of these films now, when a character... Here's a perfect example. Some of you guys will know this. Who here has played the Telltale Walking Dead games? Remember the Telltale games that came out several years ago? Yeah. Dirty Games, I'm not sure if you ever watched these games. Who here remembers the character?
Yeah, I've watched the games.
Who here remembers the character of Ben? Remember Ben? Ben? So the context of Ben is that Ben was this, 18-year-old high school kid, a complete liability, but he was essentially an 18-year-old who would act the way an 18-year-old would act if the zombie apocalypse just happened out of nowhere and no one knew what was going on, right? And they just made him a liability and a liability and a liability throughout the first 3 or 4 episodes of that series. Comes to the 5th episode, and it's like, okay, you've brought Ben down to such a level that there has to be some kind of redemption arc in the next episode to essentially absolve Ben of all the wrongdoing that he had did previous. Right? You have to give him some kind of moment where he finally becomes the hero. He finally becomes, the reliable person he needs to be. Maybe he saves Clem from a bunch of walkers and dies in the process. Maybe he does something heroic that saves his character and gives him that moment of redemption. What do? They kill him in the next episode. So they don't give him that redemption arc. So it's like, okay, so essentially what you're telling me is that this guy was just a complete liability boob who you didn't need around, and the earliest opportunity to get rid of this guy, you should have just gotten rid of him, right? That's how they work with a lot of characters these days. They just do not give them that redemption arc at all. If you guys recall, I did a movie review on a movie called Not Okay. Don't watch it. It sucks. It was basically about a woman who lied about being in Paris during a terrorist attack and then she got caught. Do they give her any kind of redemption arc where she can understand that, hey, what you did was messed up and wrong, and hey, I need to make up and atone for what I did? No, basically the movie ends, I'm not making this up, with one of the main characters doing a 5-minute slam poetry dig on her in front of the entire auditorium where they all clap. It's like, yeah, you were a terrible person. She walks out, leaves the theater, and the movie ends. No redemption for you either. Who wants to sit there and watch entertainment like that, where there's no you're basically just telling you you're a trash person, you're gonna die a trash person? What form of late stage nihilism is this? Nobody wants to watch this shit.
Well, speaking of not wanting to watch it, we do have this wonderful gem here. Russell T. Davies says that Doctor Who provides an alternative to very straight, very masculine, very testosterone, I think you can put that on a sandwich, mainstream sci-fi franchises.
Is that why no one's watching it now?
I believe that's why a black man transformed into a blonde white woman. I think that's why that happened, because he was...
I thought that was the plot of White Chicks.
Well, apparently Russell T. Davies decided that was a great end for... I don't know how to say his name. I don't know how to say his name. I say Nakuti, and it's not meant to be funny. I just read it as Nakuti Gatwa. Okay, I'm very sorry. I'm a Mainer. I have never encountered how to pronounce this. I've said it wrong all along, so you have to forgive me. But Mr. Gatwa's time in Doctor Who ended about a month ago, and he transformed into Rose Tyler, notably a blonde, white British woman.
So essentially, white chicks but British.
Yeah, and with more steps. But yeah. So this is real. This is an actual thing that this fellow decided to trot out and let the world know about. That he, the showrunner, decided that Doctor Who was just pushing too much of that manosphere stuff. I guess little too heavy.
It was a little
on,
too Andrew Tatey for me.
So we've made sure that it is in opposition to that mainstream hyper testosterone. Available in your Lunchables, hyper testosterone mainstream sci-fi franchises. Though I am completely unaware of any very straight, very masculine, very testosterone mainstream sci-fi franchises in 2025. I can't think of one off the top of my head. In fact.
Yeah, like they keep saying that, oh, we're fighting the toxic masculinity. It's like, can we at least get some masculinity in shows and movies now?
It's Italian hormone. I got a lot of
I was gonna go French, but I guess that works too.
It's Italian hormones that you put in your tortellini.
Oh, there you go. That's what makes it twisty. That's how you twist your tortellini when you put your testosterone in there. Testosterone. Gotta get it in there.
The pasta rigatolis.
Oh, is Shooty? Is that how you say that? I don't know. So he's Shooty Gatwa. Okay. I would have never have guessed that ever in my life. That's how you say that. But anyway, Russell T. Davies had that to say about this. And of course, Spencer brought us the whole story. He's a little busy today. He's in the chat, though, participating with the conversation. And he says, this is what Russell T. Davies' quote was for about this. And he says, I think it was just about like nudging by 1% in that direction. But again, it's 2025. You also have to look at what the others are doing. A lot of the other science fiction franchises are very straight, very masculine, very testosterone-y. And so that's our space. I do think that's where Doctor Who can fill a space. Well, it is certainly... No, it's not.
It's certainly a space, but...
Nerdigans, can I ask you, do you feel that there is any American franchise that is like, Doctor Who sci-fi, in space sci-fi stuff? Do you think that is anything that is very straight, very masculine, and very testosterone-y?
I don't even know if Star Trek, modern Star Trek is not like that anymore.
Picard's a musical number in it.
Yeah, Picard isn't, the latest season of Picard isn't like that. At least... Well, I know. I don't think there's... The second season I heard was pretty good, and I heard the third season, there's 3 seasons of Picard. I heard the third season...
the third one that was the best.
Yeah, third season is the best. Second season, first 2 seasons are very rough to get through, and the third season is the best. But yeah, I don't think so. I don't think there's any, Western sci-fi that's as, uber masculine. I'm talking Fist of the North Star or JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Well, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is a little bit different because there's a little bit of femininity mixed in a way.
It's kind of gay at times with the costumes.
Yeah, it gets. I mean, for fuck's sake, the JoJo spinoff actually partnered with Gucci. There's a straight up chapter about Gucci. So yeah, it's not straight, uber macho masculine. Maybe part 3 is, but yeah, you don't have a Fist of the North Star or a Kengan Asura or a Hajime no Ippo where it's uber masculine or testosterone like they're describing here. You don't have that in modern Western media right now, or let alone the sci-fi genre.
Well, and he goes on and he's talking about how the corporations were not true allies of LGBT and that he has remained such because I believe he's part of that coalition.
Yeah,
okay. So I don't assume that about him. again, it's just a strange way of communicating his ideas. That's for sure. So he feels like he's had a lifetime of backlash going on here. He says, I'm seeing in my own lifetime a backlash like I never thought. Well, actually, that's not true. I always thought our rights were paper thin, to be absolutely honest. And if you look at my writing for the past 30 years, it's always been there, the belief that these paper thin rights can be taken away with one vote, one English prime minister, certainly with one US president. That's happening now. It's literally happening to us. Taking Harvey Milk's name off of the ship to be in the American Navy, you cannot be more petty or more nasty or more hateful toward us. So the fight is on. I think it's disguised as a trans fight that's actually after all of us. And you literally see it heating up day by day by day by day. And Spencer, come on, man. You have a man transforming into a woman screenshot following that. Oh, that's evil.
The
dude.
trans allegory of it all.
I had a moth crawling on the back of my neck.
Well,
That's
it is
weird.
Maine, so who knows? It might be a start of a Stephen King novel now.
Yeah, I don't know. Bit by a radioactive moth. Pretty soon I'm going to be eating all of the clothing in my
You've
closet.
heard the stories of Mothman.
Yeah, turns out he was from Maine and he was the host of a semi-successful podcast. But so we have what he's talking about is, of course, what's happened is that there's a downturn in the politicization of what's happened with LGBT over the years. Okay, and so over the years, of course, the T got added onto the LGBT.
Well, T's been added to the LGBT for a while. It's the QIA plus that's been added to LGBT.
That's what I'm saying. It's grown out to be quite a coalition of people that outwardly in popular media have a very arrogant attitude. And Russell T Davies acknowledges that there was arrogance when all the corporations were being outwardly happy with Pride, ready to promote it, do parades with it, stuff like that. And so now that that's not happening, he perceives this as an attack. And of course, Harvey Milk's name being taken off an American Navy ship is pretty unprecedented. We're changing the name of a naval ship is pretty unprecedented. But what it's replaced with is a military person, not another non-military
Correct me if I'm
activist.
wrong, but didn't they remove Harvey Milk's name because they figured out that he has some relations with some not so legal age individuals?
The way that Pete Hegseth explained it was that Harvey Milk was an activist, and the Navy does not have Navy ships that are named after activists. It has it named after presidents and military members. And so that was how he explained it. I didn't know anything about Harvey being involved with young men. So again, that's if that's the reasoning, then great. I don't want a ship named after that. If that's not the reasoning, great. I don't want ships named after activists, even right-wingers,
But I think that's a fair reason, though.
I want the USS Andrew Tate. You know what I mean? I don't want that. I really don't want that.
But I gotta wonder, would it be different if the ship was named after a gay person that's in the military? If Russell T Davies would be saying the same thing?
Well, again, he's perceiving this change as an attack on Harvey Milk because LGBT.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Harvey was a leader of that movement. So that's why he perceives it as, he was very influential in that movement. That's why he perceives it to be an attack on the identity of those people in the coalition because of Harvey's place in that coalition.
Okay.
So that's why it's perceived as an attack. Again, if it had been switched to another person that was also openly homosexual, I don't know the argument would have as much venom to it.
But here's where I'm going to say it wouldn't have as much venom, and it wouldn't have as much, especially if it's someone in the military. It'd be a little bit more progressive because remember there was the don't ask, don't tell stuff for the longest time. So people were in the military, they had to be closeted homosexual. So if you had an openly gay person that was in the military on a Navy ship, like Russell T Davies' argument would hold like no water. It wouldn't be an attack. It would actually be kind of like a celebration and showing how far America has come.
And again, it also enters into the conversation a political situation. Granted, we do name ships after presidents, but that's simply because they're the president, really, more or less. I don't think the USS General Ford reflects Gerald Ford's time as president whatsoever. Okay, a ship with lasers on it with 2 nuclear reactors. The largest.
I mean, it's a very petty argument from this aspect. Someone can very easily turn around and be like, "Hey, remember when we had heterosexual men as Doctor Who, and then they came over there and replaced that too?" Like, you understand, like, what the how thin the argument is on its baseline based off just off stuff.
If
like
you
that.
flip it, it sounds even more ridiculous. So,
right,
you know, it's one of those things where, again, he's noticing the rejection of the politicization of the human condition and receiving that as, you know, angst toward people who are of the LGBT coalition. And again, it does feel quite rude when corporations no longer want to cater to you. We know. We've seen how corporations get very cold to you when they no longer feel they need your money. And this is what Russell is reacting to, is that all along the way, the corporations were very iffy about being open about this pride acceptance thing until they weren't anymore. And then again, they were iffy about getting away from it until they weren't anymore. And he explains they were never the allies. They were always there just to make money off of them. And unfortunately, we thought the same thing too. We thought Bud Light was on our side. Turns out.
And even that kind of doesn't really address the elephant in the room. It's like the reason why people turned against you is because you essentially start shoving the rainbow propaganda down everyone's throat to the point they couldn't escape it even if they wanted to. It's like literally, but it's only like a week into July. Last month, you had all these corporations that were like, "Oh yeah, here's gay trans flags in all of our logos because we're." But it got to a point where essentially you alienated everyone to the point that they just didn't want to be associated with you anymore. That's why you got backlash. It's not because, oh, they just don't like you because insert reason here. Like, there's a very specific reason why. So if we can address that, then maybe we can meet a middle ground there.
Maybe. But who knows? It's all just up in the air anyway.
All I'm saying is that the damn armadillos weren't in my lawn. I wouldn't have to get a crossbow to kill them under my house. That's all I'm saying. Armadillos.
Okay. All right. I'm going to take your word for that on that entirely.
Someone's going to get that joke, and I don't care if it's just one person.
Okay. It's not going to be me, that's for sure. But again, like we're so far away from the original topic is that he's just saying, you know, the original headliner to all of this, okay, is that he's saying that TV shows today are too masculine. They're too straight. They're too
It's not.
Based on what?
Well, Glad says otherwise, though. Glad says otherwise. Glad says that it's leaning more towards being too gay.
Glad says that television shows have never been gayer than they are right now.
Exactly.
Yeah. So again, I can't find a franchise on the face of this earth that is not attempting to make way for at least a feminized tint to it. Even the Fantastic Four is placing emphasis on Sue Storm's role on the team, who appears to be like the public-facing leader, like the one that talks to the press. That again, it fits naturally to how we understand Sue. But again, this tilts the original story of the Fantastic Four into the conversation of they're much more progressive than the 1960s probably would have allowed for. Again, this is not meant to be a 1960s movie, right? But this is the tint that's added to all of this. Whereas the hyper masculine one, the too masculine one that Russell T Davies is trying to say that the Fantastic Four is, would have Sue playing more of a role like Jessica Alba, being a piece of eye candy that interacts with the adversary in a way that's suggestive, to say the least, and thus renders her there to entertain and hold the attention of the adult members of the audience who otherwise might not be digging all the rock and flame and stretchiness going on with boys. And so that's again, like isn't Pedro feminine enough for the? He's not really in trailers that I've seen. He's playing a very masculine Reed Richards as far as I've seen.
That's another thing too, because they're not front loading him off of how he is in the movie. They're just going around with all these like gaslighting campaigns on social media, being like Pedro Pascal is the new face of masculinity. It's like, no, the fuck he's not. I'm sorry.
Press X to doubt, baby.
Crippling depression and crippling anxiety is not the new face of masculinity.
Like he started crying like on like an Instagram live thing, you know?
Oh my
like
God.
I could be moved to tears when we're talking about Shinzo Abe and stuff like that, but he was like on a live talking about Star Wars and stuff and had like an emotional like hiccup because of just the pressure and people having critiques about the show.
Like, people are trying to
just get off camera, just shut it down.
They're trying to gaslight you into believing that somehow this is what women want. Women, let me ask you a serious question. Do you want your man to be holding your hand because he's so crippled with anxiety he can't be in a room full of more than 10 people? Does that sound sexy to you? Does that sound like something that you want to obtain?
There's this very sad reality, and we've all learned it. Every man that makes it this far in life has learned that you can't cry in front of your lady lover.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do it.
I think it depends. It just depends on the context of the situation. It's just
you
random.
would like to think that, if your, mom died or your dog died or that something traumatic happened to you, that you'd be able to like shed a couple of tears and she would be able to understand. Now, I know that in 2025, most of them don't, and that's kind of where we're at right now. You got to think that, well, shit, if you can't even cry for the passing of your loved one, if that makes her run away, then, hey, then again, you can also argue maybe you were with the wrong woman. So
let me just preface this. It is not a 1-to-1 guarantee. Let's put it that way. But the majority of the time, it is not recommended for a man to show the sadness of like crying, being in a hysteric state anyway.
You might
in
give
front
her
of a
the
woman.
ick.
Well, it's not so much the ick. It triggers a primal trigger in the woman in the female like lizard brain. The male lizard brain has its own triggers. The female lizard brain is told this person doesn't have control, not of the emotion, not of the realm. It's just the signal. This person doesn't have control, and until this point, that has not been something that has gotten to the lizard brain. No matter how drunk you got, no matter how intense the fight got, whether hopefully you didn't hit her, right? Don't do that. But if you're yelling and things like that, and you stomp out of the room or whatever, you haven't even crossed into that point yet. It's when you're crying. That is the chaos that the feminine lizard brain is trained to be like, on. And I've read studies about this because I've tried to understand this stuff. I wanted to adopt a girl child way back in 2014. So I tried to understand, like, what am I going to encounter when she turns 8 years old and she starts becoming more alert of herself in the world around her. And so I tried to understand this sort of things. Like, it's even not advised for the father to do it in front of the girl child because it does that lizard brain thing that says you're not in control right now. And that's, you can be losing a leg and you're supposed to be there and just go, scream, yell, anger. Don't cry because it signals that I don't have control right now. Lizard brain thing. And it's just one of those things you can't defeat. It's nature. Again, it's not a 1-to-1 thing. Nerdigans explained that it's not a thing that's going to chase her away from you. I would argue it's what you cry over, but you know what I mean. It's not something that's going to chase her away, But a lot of women have that lizard brain response that when they see a man cry, that this is a very unstable situation for this man, and they are not okay with it. It's not something that is healthy for them to be in contact with. And it always changes the relationship dynamic. It could be for the better. Most of the time, for the not great. And this is what Russell T. Davies is trying to explain is like the problem with your sci-fi stuff is there's not enough crying, there's not enough emotion, there's not enough that feminine tilt, right? So Pedro Pascal.
I would argue that there's too much of the cult of Ishtar on television, and maybe we need significantly less. That would be my argument.
Well, I'll give you a prime example. Season 1 of The Mandalorian. It took the world by storm. Man defends baby. That's done. He didn't even have a face, for Christ's sake. He didn't have a face. He had to have it up once. He didn't even have a face, and these women were falling all over for this toaster man and his little goblin baby. as they ran across the universe together, committing various crimes and getting away with it. You know, that they love that stuff. They loved it. And guess what? They were like, nope, girl power. They just immediately stomped out that whole process of like, no, they cannot have a male hero. He must be. That's the thing, though.
Like these, again, this is women just being stupid because like we women like masculine men. Like women go watch Aquaman to stare at Jason Momoa.
Yep.
Like they're not watching going to a Marvel movie to see Fat Thor. No, they're going there to see like Chris Hemsworth like ripped. Like they're not going to see. That's the thing. Like that's why I can't stand these people in Hollywood like trying to like gaslight us into believing about like dad bots. It's like, yeah, stop. We women, you were full of crap. You're not going to push the dad bot agenda on us when you all know damn well that we are only going to see like guys like Jason Momoa in theaters just to drool over them and not over the guys with the dad bots.
Good old dehydrated Hugh Jackman, walking beef jerky. Hugh Jackman.
Mm-hmm.
Hugh Jackman, like, I mean,
well, he dehydrated himself so much to make that happen. Like he's practically a walking ad for chapstick.
Yeah, he did a straight up UFC like 30-pound weight cut to get where he was for that.
For that, what was that movie? Days of Future Past was the one he did the most extreme one in. He said he was like, I was close to fainting in a couple of the scenes. And it was like, that's how dehydrated he had to get in order to get like that ripped and stuff. But that guys like to see that too. Not for the sexual reason. We look at that. We're like, well, if he could do it, I could do that. I could do metal claws.
But it's not just like the clean guys either. Like, as I said, Jason Momoa or like hell, even Hugh Jackman and Logan. Women love like a dirty, like strong, rugged man.
Hairy,
too.
sweaty.
Some like that. Some like the hairy type. Some just like the sweaty type. But some like both.
You get it all with Hugh Jackman.
You get it. Yeah, Hugh Jackman. Hugh Jackman does it all.
We had to come up with fake names in graphic design, so I made my temporary business owner name Hugh Jack Me Off.
That sounds like a drag king name. I'm sorry.
Yep. I realized that, but I was only 13 and living in Maine at the time, so I thought it was hilarious because, it's a penis joke, and I'm 14. But yeah.
But that's, you just described the drag king scene, not the 13 years old part, but like, yeah, penis joke. That's what it is. It's all penis
jokes.
jokes.
Probably that too now.
Yeah, it's a new world. It's a Russell T Davies new world, I guess. But again, like we have Star Wars. They completely obliterated that. They're still trying to make Rey a central figure to the Star Wars universe and keep teasing people that one day Luke is going to come back, you know? And again, like, I don't know many people that want to see Luke's story. I thought that people would want to, but the more I hear from them, no. They want to hear stories.
Hamill doesn't want it anymore either. He's done with it.
Guy's a dork. They again, like, this is another example of how this has gotten so out of hand that no one recognizes the franchise anymore. Star Trek, another one that just spent a very long time browbeating the main characters, the male characters. A lot of that happened this new season.
It took
Star
until
Trek
like season
STD
3
was all about that.
Well, it took until like season 3 of Picard for any like resemblance of Star Trek.
Yeah, there was a lot of browbeating Picard in the first 2 seasons. Like, boo-hoo, you were in control and you did things when you were in control that you were probably supposed to do anyway. Again, it's just this conflating problem that there's no very straight, very masculine, very testosterone-y show out there. There isn't. Even the Transformers, for what it is supposed to appeal to, has tilted a little bit, not dramatically, but it's tilted a little bit into the zone of that pink tilted femininity. And again, like, they're ripping each other in half. This has lost a leg and an arm in Transformers 1. I'm not trying to make the case that the change has been dramatic there, but they have definitely set RC up to be much more central to a story they'd like to go forward with there in order to, again, try to bring in that Xena warrior princess demographic they think exists in women, but they're not. They need to bring in more.
Hold on a second. Warrior princess, the Xena warrior princess demographic exists in women to an extent, but there's a lot of men that like Xena warrior princess.
That's what I mean. And so they go out and they create a character like Xena warrior princess, and turns out the men like it. The men are really crazy about that kind of woman. The women, not so much, because Xena's not that sexy to women. You gotta understand, Lucy Lawless is almost, what, 6'5", 6'2", anyway, over 6 feet tall, and she was built for action, okay? A lot of women wanted to be Cersei, the little dainty thing with the hefty chest wearing a bikini cave woman Roman Greek goddess costume. They wanted to be Athena, who was dainty and had the bronze booby bikini and all the dangly bits and stuff. Not a lot of them wanted to be Xena. And that's the mistake that they keep making here, is that female characters who are dainty don't have to be physically imposing all the time. There's Supergirl, who annoyingly looks like a teenage cheerleader, like bench pressing buses. But you also have Scarlet Witch, who doesn't have to look like she can lift the bus, but wiggle her fingers and make that happen. And Russell T Davies just ignores that tilt that media has had and insists that it's all still 1980s He-Man, Transformers, the old Transformers, all that stuff still. That it's still all this stuff that's like, girls are icky and gross. Make sure that you get your creature creator not an easy bake today. You remember the creature creator?
No, the creature color creator. Yeah, I remember those.
Totally an easy bake for boys.
I wanted one of them too.
You watch Soup's videos, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll get this reference. I'm gonna say it, Grizzy. I'm gonna say
it. Yeah. Again, like this is what alternative media has become. Is that in order to become that very masculine, very straight, very testosterone environment, most people my age anyway, I don't know about you two, but you're not ancient, you know what I mean? Most people that are around in my demographic anyway are watching YouTube now. They watch people do things. That's what they play a game. They make a cake. They go fishing. They explore the ancient ruins of a 1980s mall. That's what people do now. They don't watch Doctor Who because Doctor Who was like, we have an agenda. And Soup and his buddies with Grizzy and Puffer running around trying to kill each other in a Swedish camping simulator is hilarious because they're not trying to make sure that no demographic is harmed by this. They're all trying to shove things up each other's asses to send them rocketing into the atmosphere.
So basically Jackass.
Yeah, but with like no physical repercussions. And that's what just about every game involving most male gamers turns into, is who can blow the other guy up the most dramatically. That's most of these games turn into. And that's what a lot of people want to watch, is they want to just watch two dudes have fun blowing each other and things up. I needed to say that faster. Blowing things up and nope. I'm just going to stop. I have really not helped anything with that last sentence.
No, you did not.
Yeah, right? So on that bombshell, we'll leave Russell T Davies to his fantasy of hypermasculine television in 2025, because that is certainly not happening in real life on this planet anyway. But again, like it is part of a downhill trend that I think I know where it got started, guys. It was Angela Anaconda.
It's always Angela Anaconda.
So an interesting thing on the internet has happened. Someone has formally acknowledged that Angela Anaconda no longer has its own legacy. It instead is tied to a single 4chan green text about the Digimon crossover causing a divorce. Now, you might think that that's absurd, but 34,000 people have acknowledged that this is how they view Angela Anaconda now, that it is not its own franchise with its own legacy. It is simply condensed down to a 5-minute short at the beginning of the Digimon movie that caused some kids' parents to get divorced.
That's literally the only two. Either you remember from the Digimon movie, or it's like, oh, Angela Anaconda ruined some kid's life.
Yep. It's amazing.
And you know what? Amazing. That's the fate that show deserves.
It really is. It really is. So, Kamchi. So, at the beginning of the Digimon movie in America, we had an Angela Anaconda short. And it featured Angelamon. And it was like the show's attempt to legitimize itself to the Digimon crowd, because I Yes,
Well,
they saw
let's really go
parallel?
deep into it.
Oh,
First of all,
boy.
there is
A
there
deep
is no
dive into Angela Anaconda.
First of all, there is no Digimon movie. The Digimon movie is a myth. The Digimon movie you guys paid money to go see was essentially 3 Japanese movies cross-cutted into one with really bad dubbing put on top. And then to make insult to injury, they put this absolute abomination of, I can't even say this is an animated show, but it's absolutely abomination of a television show, a 5-minute bit that had nothing to do with the movie whatsoever, to the point that when people bought the DVD to the movie, they had to sit through 5 minutes of this stuff because it's actually canon in the freaking movie.
It's real?
It wasn't like one of those DVD extras. Every time you play the movie, you have to sit through Angela Anaconda.
Oh, man. Man, that hits hard, especially when you get you run around, I run around. We're all going to run around stuck in your head for 10 years.
Oh, God, no. I don't want to get that stuck in my head, no. Ugh.
Oh, you guys remember the best part when TK and Kari's Digimon turned into Mega for like 5 seconds just to release some stupid golden Digi-Egg for the other 2 to use? It's like, well, if you guys could have turned into Mega this whole freaking time, how come you guys didn't just beat the freaking bad guy then?
I just want to point out the Digi-Egg evolutions are between Rookie and Champion on the power level. So 2 Megas bit the dust in order to make sure that things significantly less powerful than them could have a kind of hard time beating the
and by the way, they had to retcon Magnamon to be a Mega because somebody pointed out, like, that actually makes no sense whatsoever why you would actually do that. So they literally had to retcon Digimon because that creative mistake was so stupid.
So that is Witch Doctor DB's takeaway from this. It says here, I can't look at this show anymore without thinking about that one green text. And this is the legacy of Angela Anaconda. So there you go.
Yeah, I say toss Angela Anaconda into the lake of fire for an eternity.
You know, it would be probably an improvement on humanity if that happened, but we wouldn't be able to forget it is the problem. You have to go back in time and make sure that it never happened. And I think there's just better uses for time travel, you know?
Yeah. Why stop 9/11 when you can stop Angela Anaconda from existing?
You know, I mean, I think there's several comedy time travel movies about that are basically like, what if thing happened? Time traveler went back and corrected this thing other than major event. You know, remember Lugal from Hot Tub Time Machine?
Yes.
Yeah. So again, you remember that joke they made? So he said, you came back and you started your own search engine and you didn't warn anyone about 9/11? And he's like, oh, I totally forgot. He forgot about 9/11 until it happened.
Yeah, no, don't go back to like stop 9/11 or World War II. Go back and find Joanna Fertone somewhere in the Albertsons in 1997 and just punch her in the face.
Whatever that. Oh, the creator of Angela Anaconda?
Yeah.
Okay. It took me a minute because I was like, the names are the same. Is it possibly connected? Or is this a wrestler? You know? I had a little
good old flying
Conan
Superman
moment.
right to the nose.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Oh my God. Like while we were streaming, something I saw is that Cinnamon Toast Crunch is coming out with bacon's flavored cereal.
That sounds about right.
I don't think that's going to last for very long. I have a feeling RFK Jr. is going to say, I don't think about that I think you're going to do that. I think you're going to stop doing that.
Like, what?
Yeah. He said that you were fired, but I don't work for him. But yeah, that's it's going to be great as he continues to degrade and no one can hear him anymore, and he's going to have like that Captain Pike wheelchair that talks for him and stuff. It's great.
He's going to have one of those like smoker mics, like you just put it up to your throat and talk.
Yeah,
You know?
it has like the voice augmenter, so he sounds like a didgeridoo because he's one of those those hippie guys. So every time he talks, it's like a didgeridoo.
He's probably the closest thing to Robo Nixon we have in real life.
Oh yeah, probably. You know, RFK Jr. pretty natural guy. I don't know if he'd put his head in the jar, but you know, maybe. I don't know. Attaching it to a robot though, I don't know. He does take that blue goo stuff. So Alex Jones is always talking about that. every time I tune into like an Alex Jones show and he's like, World War III again, World War III, World War III, World War III, World War III. Every time
You
I
sure
tune
that's
in,
not
he's like,
Tim Pool?
well, again, between the two of them. But every day, Alex Jones, World War III. And anyway, so every time I click on it to open it up, he's always showing the footage of RFK Jr. pulling that blue shit out of his pocket and unscrewing it and putting it into like a cup of tea or something on Air Force One. And he's like, the blue extract will help extend your penis and lifespan, and it'll also make you good at math and all this other crazy shit that it doesn't do. And it's crazy. He's like marketing this stuff, and it always makes me laugh because it's always RFK Jr. sneaking this stuff. Like it's some camera person that's just catching him adding this stuff to his tea, whatever it is, and he slides it back into his pocket, and they're like, "Wow, it's crazy! This blue stuff, superpowers." It's from the same guy that markets you male vitality pills. Super mega male vitality. Get it today.
That literally Alex Jones has been in World War III for like the last 20 years.
He is World War III at this point.
He is World War III.
I think I saw an AI video of 100 Alex Joneses versus one gorilla, and I have to find that one. That might be a new intro. It's 100 Alex Joneses versus one gorilla.
Mm-hmm.
But that brings us to the end of the show. We've been going here for almost 3.5 hours. As I let you know during the Heroes Con after action report, I only have a 4-hour battery life on like me, not my devices, me. And so, as you can tell, I am.
Yeah, we need to stop letting Nerdigans talk so much. Maybe we get out of here in an hour and a half.
No, we like having Nerdigans do the Tokyo Happy Hour. I almost forgot what we call that. And that's it was like 9/11. I forgot it, but
the only thing we will remember is Angela Anaconda.
Right, the final record of humanity.
Not the final record of humanity being Angela Anaconda and not Life with Luffy.
You know what? I'm almost 45% certain that the Antichrist will be a fan of Angela Anaconda.
You will know him by his love of Angela Anaconda. It's right there in the Bible. Mm-hmm. But yep, that brings us to the end. So, Miss Nerdigans, when the show is over, where do we find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Nerdigans Inc., where we cover anime and manga every day. And actually, right after this, I'm going to be covering an early release of Blue Lock, which technically comes out tomorrow. On Patreon, patreon.com/PackerGirl. We are covering summer anime. So far, we are covering Witch Watch, which is from last season, but still, Dan to Dan, Gotcha Yakuta, and My Dress Up Darling Season 2 as well. You can follow me on Twitter to see more of my insanity. Which is right there. On Thursday for my Nerdy Cast, my weekly Nerdy Cast, I'm going to do a full Anime Expo recap and talk about like a lot of the articles I'm going to be doing for Bounding, like for Bleach, Chainsaw Man Rize, Black Clover, and so on and so forth. So stay tuned for that. And I'm almost done with the Bleach article. Speaking of for Bounding, I'm almost done with that one. So hopefully that will be up in like the next day or so. So I'll try and be on the retro show, especially if it is going to be about like
spring break.
It's going to be about spring break. Okay, I'll be on for that.
Of course. There'll be bikinis. Of course you'll be there. But anyway, nice. Okay. Wow. All right. So Jacob, where do we find you when the show's over? And I get over my horrible embarrassment.
Well, hopefully you don't find me at all after the show's over. The show's done.
Yeah, right. Jeez, man. Like I made the joke about balls earlier, and she left me hanging too. Gosh.
Yeah. Do not go to Nerdigans for a layup. She will absolutely.
Man, shut down.
Above the rim,
atomic
no ball.
Shutdown, dude. Gosh.
Above the rim with no ball, baby.
We are making jokes. This is a joke. It's not made at anyone's expense. It is a joke.
What am I doing? Oh yeah, Barroom tomorrow night. We'll be talking about James Gunn doing everything he possibly can to kill Superman before it comes out. Charlize Theron made a bunch of stupid comments about her shitty movie that's coming out. South Park is now blaming Paramount for the downfall of their television show, and then we're gonna be watching a little thing called Slam Ball. Think of like basketball, but with trampolines and and somehow even blacker people. And then that's slam ball in a nutshell. We'll explain it all tomorrow night on the Bar Room. Last night, me and Technical Work Rate Productions did a very, very interesting and eye-opening episode I've gotten a lot of feedback about. We did the WWE and Satanism Part 2 last night. A lot of things even JC and NC didn't know, but go back and check out that episode. It's blowing up a bit on the YouTube. And then, like I said, Saturday, me and Cider will be doing the retro show. We did one on Degrassi on Saturday, which is great to basically torture Cider for 2 hours. It was a very fun experience for me. I don't know about him, but this week we're doing MTV Spring Break. And then for those of you guys following us over on The Mix, I literally submitted like 7 movie reviews, and so far only 2 have gone up. So there's going to be a lot more because I still have like 12 movies to catch up on. So yeah, I'm going to be backed up for a while, but I'm going to have a lot of content for the next several days. So there you go.
All right. Miss Nerdigan's left. It was a joke about her being
Already?
bi. It was a joke about her being bi. That was it. She told us she was bi.
Usually
and it's a bikini
Nerdigans leaves
episode.
like... Usually Nerdigans will wait until like press the outro video to like get out of here.
That's why I just wanted to preface this had nothing to do with her being a lady. It had to do with her being bi. That was it. She had told us before. So the bikini episode, of course, she was going to whatever. This is the Superman meme that's about the title. This is Goku saying, "Hi, you're pretty strong. Would you like to fight sometime?" And Superman says, "No, you are a reckless, violent man, and I refuse to humor you and endanger others in the process." And this went wild across the internet. Everybody and their brother had an opinion about it. So that's why I brought it here. Ta-da! That's the Superman versus Goku thing, is people kind of correctly predicted that Superman would be like, "Hey, I don't need to prove that."
Okay.
So there you go.
Remember Death Battle? Remember when?
Yeah,
when
Screw Attack's
Goku
Death Battle.
What was it? It was the Superman who killed Goku. Who won that fight? I can't remember.
Yeah, he threw him into the sun.
Oh yeah, because Superman can bake in the sun and not die.
Yeah, and Goku can't. It's been known for a long time now that high energy is how you deal with Saiyans. That's what they
Saiyans.
are.
Is that
I was
what
going to
we're
say
calling it now?
Saiyajin. I've been hanging around the Japanese too much.
Back in my day, we just called them monkeys, but now I guess we just have to refer to them as Saiyans.
Well, and on that.
Don't trust China. China is an asshole. Don't trust. Don't trust China. China is an asshole. Don't trust. Don't trust China. China is an asshole. Don't trust. Don't trust China. China is an asshole. I peep the game through the firewall haze. Mandarin mask with a capitalist glaze. What you building up? A dream or a cage? One belt tight like a silk guillotine. Tech stack gift wrap made in mystery. Firmware slick, but it edits history. Call it soft power. I call it slippery. Smile wide while they flip the script on liberty. Don't trust China. China is asshole. 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 Yo, it's red tape with a gold-plated trim. Silk Road too, but the path look grim. Win-win, they grin, but the terms feel thin like a panda. Smile, hide a tiger within. Ticked and talk, now the clock's on you. Terms of service longer than a debut coup. Export thoughts like it's made for you, but behind the wall, what's really true?